Welcome to the fantasy. Marvel. Enlightenment against the sky, my magic is completely forbidden. Chapter 21. Saw Lin Ang put away the Agamotto eye. Furuichi breathed a sigh of relief. After Wang and Mordo return, let's hold the Supreme Mage Inheritance ceremony. Listening to Ji Yuyi's words, Lin Ang was stunned for a moment. Inherit the title of Supreme Mage. This was not a surprise to him. The Supreme Mage represents Blue Star's most powerful mage. It is necessary to take on the responsibility of guarding the order of the magical world in Blue Star, and guarding the safety of Blue Star. Ji Yuyi and Dormammu, after fighting for hundreds of years, have not been able to kill Dormammu. Now that Lin Ang has killed Dormammu, no one will question his strength. Ji Yuyi passed on the title of Supreme Mage to him, and no one would object. But wouldn't this be too fast? Ji Yuyi has nothing to do now, and logically speaking, he should not give up his name to him now. Lin Ang looked at Ji Yuyi. Mentor, you. Before his words were finished, Furuichi raised his hand to stop his next words. Lin Ang, I'm tired. I have lived for hundreds of years and have guarded the Blue Star almost all my life. I've been guarding this planet for hundreds of years, and it's time to retire and enjoy a leisurely life. Do you understand what I mean? Lin Ang. Quote. Lin Ang couldn't help but smile bitterly. Ji Yuyi had already said this, how could he not be clear? It's this guy who wants to be a salted fish. But think about the disaster that Blue Star will be. Lin Ang still nodded. Okay, listen to you, mentor. Instead of putting fate in the hands of others, waiting for the protection and redemption of others, Lin Ang prefers to have the initiative in his own hands. On the other side, S.H.I.E.L.D. in New York, aboard an airship. S.H.I.E.L.D. director, Nick Fury, stood in front of the window, holding a coffee and looking at the scenery outside. Ah, today is another peaceful day. As soon as his voice fell, a person hurriedly walked over, and handed a tablet to him with a solemn face. Nick Fury frowned slightly, glanced at him, and then said with a little smile. Cousin, how many times have I told you, don't be so serious, relax. You're always so serious, you strain your nerves and make everyone nervous. While there are no major events happening now, you should also enjoy life. And Agent Cousin, as if he didn't hear what he said. One grabbed the coffee from Nick Fury's hand, put the coffee aside, and shoved the tablet into his hand with a serious face. Looking at the tablet in his hand, Nick Fury was slightly stunned. Agent Cousin's tough attitude made him a little more serious. Okay, let me see what the hell is going on. Nick Fury, grab the tablet and look at the contents. Just by glancing at it, Nick Fury's brow furrowed tightly. The picture on the tablet is a ruin, and around the ruins, there are panicked and fleeing Londoners and the flames that rush into the sky. In front of an almost completely destroyed building, there is a huge passage. Hundreds of people knelt in front of the passage, who, like fanatical maniacs, kowtowed, cheered and shouted towards the passage. A huge head made of energy is sticking out of that passage. With the appearance of the huge head, the entire streets of London seemed to be soaked in ink. It all turned black and gray, the lifeless color. Nick Fury, who was originally relaxed, immediately became serious after seeing the content on the tablet. The London Temple was attacked. Nick Fury looked at Agent Cousin beside him in shock. Agent Cousin nodded. Nick Fury asked, pointing to the tablet, Dormammu's huge head made of energy. What the hell is this? How is the London Temple now? Although S.H.I.E.L.D. and Karma-Taj do not have much intersection with each other, but they are aware of each other's existence. He has some knowledge of Karma-Taj. There are some mages who have been practicing there. They guard these three temples. The owner of Karma-Taj is the Supreme Master Ji Yuyi Venerable. Her strength is strong, and I don't know how many invasions Tylangson has resisted. And those three temples are also said to exist to protect the Blue Star. Now a temple has been attacked, The expression on Nick Fury's face became serious. At this time, Agent Cousin pulled the corners of his mouth and said with a little smile. Director Nick Fury, I think you should take it easy at this time and not be so serious. You're going to make everyone nervous. Nick Fury smiled wryly and couldn't help but point at Agent Cousin. Cousin, now is the time when you stop kidding. Nick Fury asked seriously. How did you find out about this? Agent Cousin returned to his previous serious and nervous look. Found on Ins. There are a lot of bold Londoners, and they take a lot of photos and videos. After restoration and processing, as well as the probing of technicians, it is roughly possible to restore what happened. Agent Cousin brought up the sorted information to Nick Fury. Nick Fury, on the other hand, read the information with a confused look, and then looked at Agent Cousin with a bit of dazedness. So, this guy named Dormammu has always wanted to invade Blue Star, and this time he was finally repelled or killed, right? Agent Cousin nodded. That's right, according to the information we got, this one called Dormammu seems to be a demon god of other dimensions. He and the Supreme Mage have been in a stalemate for hundreds of years. After listening to it, Nick Fury fell into deep thought. Moments later, Nick Fury looked at Agent Cousin and ordered, "Be sure to find out who repelled or destroyed Dormammu in a short period of time. I think we in S.H.I.E.L.D. may need him." Coulson nodded. In fact, he felt that this matter could not be investigated at all. Karma Taj's most powerful mage is Supreme Mage Ji Yi. This time to repel or kill Dormammu, the most likely is Ji Yi. A few days later, the aftermath of the London Temple was finally completed. Wong and Mordo and the other mages of Karma Taj also returned to Karma Taj. When they remembered the tragic situation in London before, they couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Lin Ang made a timely move at that time. It takes Dormammu to overlapping space, to a real fantasy. Otherwise, the Temple of London and even all of London might cease to exist. When Wong and Mordo both knew that Lin Ang would soon take over the title of Supreme Mage, they were all stunned. But the two were thinking about Lin Ang's calmness when facing Dormammu. They felt reasonable, although I don't know how much strength Lin Ang hidden. But with his calmness, they could guess that he must not have exerted his full strength when facing Dormammu. And Strange, who has been following Wong and Mordo recently, is at a loss. His whole body froze in place. A pair, who am I? Where am I? What did I just hear? What am I going to do? Dumbfounded. His people are really stupid. He came to Karma Taj a few days earlier than Lin Ang, and although he did not visit him, he was also more familiar with Karma Taj's magic. They worshipped the teacher one day and became the disciples of the ancient mage. But now, he could only follow behind Wong and Mordo and follow them to learn basic magic. Even the portal was not opened well, and he would fail from time to time. But Lin Ang, he is actually going to become a Supreme Mage. Isn't that incredible? Too hard to accept. And the other mages of Karma Taj were so shocked that their eyes were about to fall. What did they hear? Ancient Mage actually thought that Lin Ang was her successor. Do you want him to take over her title of Supreme Mage? The title of Supreme Mage is not hereditary. That was the title that represented the strongest mage of Blue Star. Lin Ang has only just come into contact with magic. Can he afford this title? Most of the mages in Karma Taj, except for Wong and Mordo and those who had rushed to London with Ji Yi before, did not know what Lin Ang had done. I don't know what level of strength he can reach. Even some of them didn't know Lin Ang. Now they heard that Ji Yi actually wanted to give the names of Karma Taj and Supreme Mage to Lin Ang. In addition to shock, they also felt panic. Ancient One Venerable, are you going to abandon us? Your Excellency, why did you leave us? Did we do something bad? Ancient Mage, is it your physical discomfort? Why pass on the throne to others? Quote. On the Karma Taj Square, a group of mages asked in panic. Looking at their expressions, Furuchi shook his head. She comforted. Don't worry, I will still be at Karma Taj. Quote. I will guard this planet until the last moment of my life. It's just that under normal circumstances, everything about Karma Taj is taken care of by Lin Ang, and I believe he will do better than me. Although she said this, the mages still looked at Lin Ang with some concern. Wong and Mordo next to them looked at each other. For Lin Ang's strength, they can be said to be the people who know best. Even Ji Yi did not understand them. After all, they were the ones who watched Lin Ang alone meet Dormammu and fight off Dormammu. Therefore, they agreed with Ji Yi's decision. Wong nodded and said, I think that Lin Ang will take over Karma Taj and take on the task of guarding Blue Star, which is the safest for Blue Star. Quote. Mordo also nodded. Sometimes, I really have to be jealous of this kid's talent and strength. His voice was full of emotion. The other mages of Karma Taj looked at Ji Yi, Wong and Mordo, and then at Lin Ang. Is such a young man really up to the task? The mages couldn't help but sigh softly. But thinking that Ji Yuyi, Wang and Mordo all said so, then Lin Ang should really have some skills. 10 days later, Karma-Taj, fully back to normal. The most severely damaged library was also repaired by Lin Ang with space magic. And this time, it also allowed the other mages of Karma-Taj to see Lin Ang's strength clearly. Lin Ang stood in front of the library, the stone pillar used to hold the Eye of Agamotto, looked at the restored library, and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. After all these days, it was finally completely restored, and he finally had time to learn all kinds of other magic. He remembered that in the original book, Strange learned a very magical magic. That kind of magic can take people out of their bodies, leave their bodies, and do a range of things. In the library, Lin Ang found books about souls and learned the magic of souls. Congratulations, watching the magic book about the soul, you have comprehended it, created the forbidden spell and wander to the world. IQ Wanji. A kind of magic about the soul, as long as the spiritual power is enough, countless soul bodies can be divided, and the soul body can reach different dimensions and break through the barriers of multiple worlds. You can observe any world at any time without being noticed. IQ Worlds. Looking at the newly learned magic, Lin Ang couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. As long as the spiritual power is sufficient, it can differentiate countless soul bodies. You can even go to different dimensions. It's very interesting. Is this pure eye-catching? He was about to use the magic of the IQ realms to experience a new horizon when he looked up and saw another magic book. The magic book of the shape of Ekern. In the original book, Dr. Strange used this trick when facing the director of the family planning office. Initially, it resembled the Thousand Hands Guanyin, but after dispersing, it was almost difficult to find that was the essence. If it weren't for the soul gem in Thanos' hand in the original work, it would take a lot of effort to find out which one was Dr. Strange among the hundreds of doppelgangers. Lin Ang placed his hand on the icon-shaped magic book. The magic book was opened. Congratulations, watching the magic book of the shape of Icon, you have comprehended it, and created the forbidden spell and infinite avatar. Infinite doppelganger. As long as the energy is enough, you can conjure up countless doppelgangers. The more energy you have, the more doppelgangers you can transform, the greater the number of doppelgangers and the stronger the strength of the body. Lin Ang raised his eyebrows slightly. IQ has no access to other things, but it is able to watch the situation around him and give back to him. The infinite avatar, on the other hand, can touch objects but has no thoughts. If both skills are used at the same time, wouldn't that be able to start stuck? Lin Ang thought of this and used these two magic spells at the same time. After IQ was used, Lin Ang suddenly felt a very wonderful feeling wandering in his mind. It was as if his eyes and brain were divided into multiple areas. He was able to see what every soul body saw. Moreover, his brain seemed to automatically divide, engraving in his mind batches what different soul bodies saw and learned. With such a feeling, Lin Ang's eyes immediately lit up. This sense, very novel, and most importantly, the idea he just conceived should be successful. Lin Ang immediately used the Infinity Doppelganger. Just in an instant, the entire library became crowded. If it weren't for Lin Ang controlling the intensity of the magic, I'm afraid that this library would be burst now. Lin Ang used both of these spells at the same time, resulting in his doppelganger and soul everywhere in the entire library. Lin Ang controlled his doppelganger and took out different magic books from the shelves. Then different soul bodies looked at different magic books. It really works. The contents of the magic book that the soul body saw were portrayed into his mind one by one. These two kinds of magic are really a perfect match. It's the perfect place to sweep the library. Quote. As the soul body finished reading the magic book, Lin Ang also began to have an epiphany, comprehending one new magic after another. Forbidden spells, forbidden demon realm. Forbidden spells, eternal solidification. Forbidden spells, control of fire, water, wind, and earth elements. Forbidden spell dimensional barrier. In just one afternoon, the accumulation of thousands of years in the Karma-Taj library was all learned by Lin Ang, and he also created many forbidden spells himself. After scanning the entire library, Lin Ang put away the infinite doppelganger, and then dispersed his soul body. Let them observe the situation of this blue star. Lin Ang then left the library. The moment he walked out of the library, he suddenly thought of the previous invasion of Cassius. He easily walked into the Karmatage library and smashed and burned inside. This is a shame for Karmatage. He turned to look at the library. The entire library, except for the prohibition on the stone pillar where the Eye of Agamotto was placed, there was only one enchantment that could resist the paradox of time. This is simply undefended externally. And it seems that this is not only the library, but also the rest of Karmatage. Nope, you can't let it go. Quote, People Iron Man has no technology and wants to put a layer of armor on Blue Star. He has a way to protect Karmatage, and he can't let it go. Driven by the levitation cloak, Lin Ang came to the sky above Karmatage. Spelling begins over Karmatage. The protective magic of the forbidden demon realm, eternal solidification, dimensional barrier, etc., were released by Lin Ang one by one, blessed around the entire Karmatage. A faint energy fluctuation quietly hid in the entire Karmatage, wrapping Karmatage. In the forbidden demon realm, all spatial teleportation magic will be invalidated. Magic such as the teleportation gate will soon be unable to be cast at Karmatage. Eternal solidification rearranges the molecules of matter, so that the buildings inside Karmatage are not afraid of physical attacks. A building with the blessing of eternal solidification, even if it is destroyed, will be reorganized in a short period of time, allowing the building to be repaired automatically. As for the dimensional barrier, this is the outermost dimensional wall of the Karmatage by Lin Anga. Although this level of meta wall is very weak, it is almost transparent to the point of invisibility. But when someone attacks it, they know how crushing this thing can be. At this time, Mage Mordo is contacting magic with a kind of mage from Karmatage. Strange stood in the middle of the line, practicing the portal of teleportation. In this short period of contact, he has been able to open the portal smoothly, but the speed of opening is relatively slow. But now, he was horrified to find that he couldn't open the portal of teleportation. Not to mention rubbing out the ring of fire of the teleportation gate, he can't even rub out a little Mars. Strange drew circles in front of him a little anxiously. But from beginning to end, there was not a trace of fire in front of him. He couldn't help but muttered in his heart. Could it be that he is really so bad? Lin Ang, who studied with him at the same time, is now the master of Karmatage and has become the supreme mage. And he couldn't even open the simplest teleportation door. Just when he felt very frustrated, he heard exclamations around him. What's going on? Why won't my portal open? Quote, Mine too. What the hell is going on? Why did my magic fail? Quote, Strange looked to the side. He found that not only his magic could not be used, but also by others. Mordo looked at everything in front of him, and secretly said that it was not good in his heart. He quickly raised his hand and tried to draw the teleportation door. And the result, like everyone else, did not react in the slightest. Nope, I have to go to the ancient. No, go find Lin Ang. Quote, Mordo glanced at the other mages and told them to disband on the spot and go back to rest first. Then he left quickly, heading towards the library. He knew that Lin Ang had been in the library during this time, and it was the fastest to find him to go to the library. At the same time, Wang and Ji Yuyi were drinking tea in the main hall, and that look, it was simply not too leisurely. Ever since Dormammu's existence, Koichi didn't know how long it had been since he had been so relaxed. Her whole person leaned a little lazily against the edge of the table, and the usual serious and unfathomable image was now gone. And Wang, who was sitting across from him, also had a smile on his face, and all the serious stereotypes in his usual days disappeared. And right at this moment, Master Mordo, who didn't even have time to knock on the door, rushed directly into the hall. Mordo, looking at his hurried appearance, Wang and Ji Yuyi couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. In the end, both of them couldn't help but get nervous, and it was not a trivial matter to make Mordo anxious to be like this. Not yet. When the two asked Modu, they had already spoken. On the Ancient One, something happened in the Karmatage practice square. All teleportation magic, all failed. Wang immediately became nervous, and the previous incident with Dormammu left a deep shadow on him. Now that something has happened to Karmatage, his first reaction is whether someone will invade Blue Star again. Both Wang and Mordo couldn't help but look at Ji Yuyi. Furuchi didn't speak, just raised his hand and drew a circle in front of him, wanting to open the portal of teleportation. Unsurprisingly, the magic cast failed, and the portal of teleportation did not even appear at all. Mars. What about Lin Ang? Have you been looking for him? Furuchi asked. Mordo nodded, and then said, I already went to find him before I came to you again. Quote. But he wasn't in the library, and he wasn't found anywhere else. Furuchi's face became solemn. It's not that she hasn't encountered this kind of thing like magic failure, but now that the whole Karmatage, everyone's magic has failed, this matter is a little strange. Wong asked a little nervously. Could it be that some unknown existence wants to invade the earth to make things? Quote. Furuchi closed his eyes and sensed it, then shook his head slightly. She didn't feel the presence of other forces. Walking out of the hall quickly, Furuchi looked up at the sky. She sensed that there seemed to be some energy fluctuations circulating in the sky. That fluctuation was extremely obscure, and if it weren't for her good strength, she wouldn't even be able to detect it. Feeling the energy fluctuations in the air, a thought could not help but appear in Ji Yuyi's heart. Now the mutation that has occurred in Karmatage, I don't know if it will be made by Lin Ang. Ji Yuyi turned his head to glance at Wong and Mordo, and then said. This should have been made by that little guy in Lin Ang. Wong and Mordo looked at each other. This was made by Lin Ang. How do you get this out? Furuchi sighed and said. In some secret places, energy can be suppressed. However, it usually only makes magic less powerful, or has a certain chance of interfering with the casting of magic. Like this, completely forbidden to use, this is also the first time I have seen it. Furuchi's expression was somewhat serious and dignified. Although only space movement magic is forbidden. But the strength of those who can do this is definitely not simple. Now in Karmatage, apart from her, only Lin Ang can do it. And even if it was her, it was not a simple matter to fasten so many people at the same time, so that they could not use magic. You gather all the mages in the square first. Let them not panic, this should be done by Lin Ang. I don't know exactly what he's going to do, but I'm sure he did it for the good of Karmatage. Wong and Mordo looked at each other. Both of them suddenly came back to their senses as if they were empowered. Yes, Lin Ang's magical talent is too perverted. It's not too much that he was able to make such an effect. It's just that his appearance makes them very embarrassed. This heart is bad, sooner or later he will be scared to death by him. Half an hour later, all the mages of Karmatage gathered in the square where Karmatage used to practice magic. Wong and Mordo were at the front of the line. The other mages were whispering this with their heads down. What's going on? How did you call everyone out? Quote. Who knows? I think it must have something to do with the magic failure in the morning. I heard that it seems that everyone can't use the portal anymore. Isn't it? Could it be that some mysterious and unknown guy has invaded? Quote. Dormammu just solved, again. Is our blue star too many disasters and difficulties? Quote. And as soon as their words were finished, someone reached out and pulled them, and then shook their heads desperately. No, it seems that not all of them can't use space magic. The man pointed outside. I tried, as long as I leave the area of Karmatage, the magic will be able to be used. Listening to what he didn't say, everyone else couldn't help but look at each other. Really fake. Of course it's true. Just as they were about to continue the discussion, Wong and Mordo, who were standing at the front, shouted. Quiet. The mages on Karmatage Square all quieted down. They all looked at Wong and Mordo, who were standing in the front. Wong and Mordo looked at each other, and then said very seriously. I know that today's events have made you feel very confused and panicked. But rest assured, this matter should have been made by Master Lin Ang. He did it for the good of the whole Karmatage. The mages looked at each other. This matter was put together by Lin Ang today. How could he do this? Although Lin Ang has now taken over Karmatage, he has also inherited the title of Ancient One Supreme Mage. But the number of times he shows his strength in front of people is too small. And right above these mages, Lin Ang made one final adjustment to the entire Karmatage defense. The library, the main hall, and other places were strengthened, and then I looked at the situation below with satisfaction. In the square below, it seemed that the entire Karmatage mage had gathered. Lin Ang couldn't help but feel a little strange in his heart. What's going on? Why did everyone gather? Lin Ang quickly fell from the air. After seeing Lin Ang, Wang and Mordo hurriedly asked, Lord Lin Angzan, what the hell is going on here? Why can't everyone use teleportation magic? Quote. Listening to Wang ask with a bit of eagerness, Lin Ang was obviously stunned for a moment. Then he was a little crying and laughing. It was his mistake that he had forgotten that in the Forbidden Realm, everyone except him would be deprived of the right to use magic. But that's not a big deal. As long as he gives a permission. Master Mordo, please help me prepare some talismans, and those amulets make sure that everyone has one. Amulet. Mordo looked at Lin Ang with a bit of dazedness. Shouldn't it be time to solve the problem that magic cannot be used? How did you start preparing the amulet? You'll know when the amulet is sent. Lin Ang patted Mordo's shoulder. Mordo nodded, and then pulled Wang to prepare the amulet. After getting the amulet, Lin Ang began to play magic arrays on the amulet. Magic affinity, spiritual examination, soul recognition, soul protection, etc. With one forbidden spell after another being punched into the talisman, those talismans are no longer ordinary talismans, and it is not an exaggeration to say that they are artifacts one by one. Lin distributed the amulets to Karma Taj's mages. Infuse your spiritual power into the amulet. In the future, you will not be affected by the facial field, and you can continue to use magic in Karma Taj. Forbidden Demon Realm. Wang and Mordo both looked at Lin Ang with a bit of surprise. It was a magic they didn't seem to have heard of. Could it be that they can't use magic because they are in this forbidden realm? This magic couldn't have been created by Lin Ang again. Lin Ang nodded at them, and then said, I have imposed a lot of protective magic prohibitions at Karma Taj, and the Forbidden Demon Field is one of them. Within the Forbidden Demon Realm, people without amulets can't use magic, and people outside can't use the teleportation door to reach Karma Taj. Wang and Mordo couldn't help but secretly say in their hearts. Sure enough, all this was done by Lin Ang. At the same time, the two of them also had a bit of joy in their hearts. Before, Cassius broke into Karma Taj with two of his men through the portal of teleportation. Now with this prohibition, it will not be so easy for outsiders to directly invade Karma Taj in the future. Your amulet doesn't just allow them to use magic at Karma Taj. Furuichi walked over and looked at the amulet. If I'm not mistaken, this talisman also allows them to cast magic faster, more powerful, and more comprehensible. Lin Ang was stunned, and then nodded. That's true. The mages who had already obtained the talisman couldn't help but widen their eyes a little. This amulet is a good thing. It's a good thing they can't touch on weekdays. Strange looked at the amulet in his hand with a bit of shock. At this time, he realized how big the gap between himself and Lin Ang was. I also know how powerful Lin Ang is now. On the Karma Taj Magic Practice Square, all the mages looked at Lin Ang with a bit of awe in their eyes. Although they had heard from Wang and Mordo before about Lin Ang's defeat of Dormammu. But they didn't have any intuitive impression of Lin Ang's strength after all. And this time, they really saw Lin Ang's power. The mages of Karma Taj all followed what Lin Ang said, and injected their spiritual power into the talisman given by Lin Ang. They immediately felt that their perception of magic had returned. Strange injected spiritual power into the amulet. Not only did his perception of magic return, he even felt that that perception had become much clearer. And his control over magic seems to have increased a lot. This feeling made him feel very surprised. He subconsciously raised his hand and drew a circle in front of him. Just in an instant, a complete portal appeared in front of his eyes. Looking at the teleportation gate that quickly appeared in front of him, Strange's tears of excitement were about to fall. Luckily, he can still use magic. Even he feels that he is much stronger now than before. Previously, it took him 5 seconds to open a teleportation gate. Now, opening a teleportation door is just a moment. After seeing Strange use the speed of the portal to teleport, the surrounding mages were all pleasantly surprised. They are trying to do this. And this attempt, they all experienced the extraordinary nature of the talisman. Everyone couldn't help but look at Lin Ang with a shocked expression, and they were completely speechless with excitement. Seeing the speed with which those mages cast magic, Ji Yuyi, Wang and Mordo couldn't help but be shocked. The three quickly tried it too. Suddenly, they felt an unprecedented powerful feeling welling up in their hearts. Furuchi looked at the talisman in his hand with a little surprise. She could feel it, and this talisman had increased her strength by 3%. Wang and Mordo felt the power on their bodies and couldn't help but sigh in a low voice. Ah, this strength has also improved too easily. Quote, this talisman is too powerful. Mordo couldn't help but touch the amulet in his hand. Wang shook his head. It's Lin Ang who is powerful, don't forget, this thing was made by Lin Ang. Quote, Mordo was silent. Furuchi sighed softly, secretly sighing. Cassius and others, in order to pursue strength, did not hesitate to sell their souls to Dormammu. And here in Lin Ang, it only takes a small talisman to increase strength. I don't know if Cassius and the others would regret what they had done before. Quote, Wang and Mordo both nodded in unison. Now it seems that Cassius is indeed somewhat unlucky and pitiful. If he knew about today's events, I was afraid that he would be mad. He was also originally a mage of Karmatage. If he hadn't betrayed Karmatage and hadn't betrayed Ji Yuyi, then this talisman should also have his share now. Now, the only ones who can party are these mages in the square. After the matter of the amulet, all the mages present were convinced by Lin Ang. Just as the mages were preparing for a giant carnival party, the sound of magic alarms came from the large library. This is an alert for a request for contact. Hearing the sound of this alarm, Furuchi frowned slightly. It's been less than a month since the Dormammu incident, so there won't be any problems with those 3 temples. Lin Ang and Ji Yuyi asked the other mages to disperse on their own first to study the amulet. Then he took Wang and Mordo to the big library. Quote, quote. Looking at the temple that sounded the alarm, all 4 fell silent. Their faces also became solemn. The London temple had just been hit hard, and now the alarm was sounded, and it was not known what was going on over there. Go to the London temple. Furuchi frowned and opened the door of the London temple. After the 4 came out of the portal, they found that the temple was intact and did not look like it had been attacked. Seeing this, the 4 people quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing the 4 people appear, the mage in charge of guarding the London temple hurriedly stepped forward and respectfully saluted them. Lin Angzan, Ancient Mage, Mordo Mage, and Master Wang. Several people nodded at him. The mage guarding the temple said with some hesitation. From an hour ago, there seemed to be something wrong with my magic. I don't seem to be able to open the teleportation door to Karmatage. Lin Ang frowned slightly and handed him a talisman. Karmatage has set a ban, and space-type magic is invalid, so you can't open the portal of teleportation. After you inject spiritual power into the amulet, you can open the portal. The mage in charge of guarding the temple looked surprised. He quickly took the talisman and then injected his spiritual power into it. Compared to others, he can be regarded as well-informed. At first, he watched Lin Ang raise his hand to restore the library. Watching Lin Ang fight Dormammu alone. Although what happened to Leon and Dormammu in the dark dimensional space, he did not see it. But for Lin Ang's strength, he had witnessed it with his own eyes. And at this time, after he injected spiritual power into the amulet, he suddenly found out. Lin Ang's ability was even greater than he thought. At this time, he only felt that his mind was clear. It seems that the degree of control over everything around me is much higher. And the perception of magical power is also much stronger. He had a hunch that this talisman was carried on his body, and his strength could be improved by 4 or 5 layers. For a while, his eyes when he looked at Lin Ang were full of reverence and admiration. Lin Ang looked around and then asked, "What's going on here? Why do you pull an alarm?" Quote, Ji Yuyi, Wang and Mordo couldn't help but look at the mages guarding the London temple. The mage suddenly came to his senses and quickly put away the talisman given by Lin Ang. Then he took out a few photos and handed them to Lin Ang. These photos were sent by someone. The pictures were nailed to the gate, and I thought about what might have been someone's provocation against the temple and Karmatage. Lin Ang took the photos. He found that the pictures had a dart on them. According to the mage who guarded the temple in London, this picture should have been nailed to the temple gate by these darts. Could it be that this is Cassius' trick? Looking at those photos, Mordo couldn't help but mutter. Wang frowned. I don't think it should be Cassius. Dormammu has been killed, and the dark power they have has disappeared. Although Cassius' strength is good, his subordinates are not strong. Really right, they don't have the advantage, so I think it shouldn't be him. Furuchi also nodded, her hand removed from the photo, and then said lightly. There is no residual aftermath of magic on the photo, and the other party should not be a mage. Lin Ang did not join their conversation. He looked down at the photos. He was very familiar with the contents of the photo. It is the scene where Cassius leads his men to call Dormammu, and the photo of Dormammu's invasion to collapse. The photos were taken from different angles and the sharpness was inconsistent. If it is not for the other party's photography technology, then it is very likely that it is not a person who takes the photo. Lin Ang looked at the photos one by one. On the back of the last photo, he saw a note. The note is glued to the back of the last photo. If you don't look closely, you won't notice the note. The note was small, very clean, and had an address written on it. Lin Ang took off the dart tied to the photo and played with it carefully. The dart was pitch black and took the shape of a bat. Looking at the small dart in his hand, Lin Ang became deeply interested in the person who sent the photo and address. Marked by the shape of a bat, the god who does things is mysterious, and the person who sent things is 80% of Batman. Lin Ang thought as he handed the note to the mage guarding the London temple. Where is this place? How to get there? Quote, Ji Yuyi, Wang, and Mordo all looked at the long note in unison. The note was only 2 fingers wide, had only one address written on it, no special symbols, and no special magic fluctuations. The guardian mage of the London temple nodded towards Lin Ang. Then he told Lin Ang the location of the address. And Lin Ang did not go directly to that place, but added defensive magic to the 3 temples. And left an amulet for the guardian mages of the 3 temples. After doing all this, Lin Ang returned to the London temple. Ji Yuyi watched him busy for most of the day, and frowned without asking. Lin Ang, do you know who sent the photo is? Lin Ang nodded, Batman. Compared to the current situation, it should not only be Batman who is looking for him, but the Justice League behind him. Then what is the danger to the other party? Furuchi asked with a frown. Lin Ang thought for a moment, and then said, the other party should not be an enemy. He felt that it was very likely that it was someone in the Justice League who had targeted them because of the previous incident with Dormammu. These people should not be hostile to them. Ji Yuyi, Wang and Mordo breathed a sigh of relief after knowing that the other party was not an enemy. Mentor, I'll meet this Batman, you guys go back to Karmatage first. Ji Yuyi thought for a moment and nodded seriously. Good. Now that Lin Ang went to meet the person who sent the photo, she really needed to sit in Karmatage to avoid any accidents. Do you need to let Wang and Mordo accompany you? Furuchi asked. Lin Ang glanced at Wang and Mordo, and then shook his head. No need, I can still deal with him. At night, the moon hangs high. Lin Ang stood under the tower bridge and looked at the huge Superman black and white logo hanging on the tower bridge. On that logo, there is a man standing. Looking from Lin Ang's direction, only a vague black shadow could be seen. The black shadow seemed to be alerting to something. I have been observing the surroundings without the slightest slack. Lin Ang's eyes narrowed, and he used the forbidden spell to teleport, quietly approaching the person on the logo. At this time, Lin Ang completely saw who the person above was. Batman. He wears a black gothic outfit, covering most of the face. It is not clear what it looks like. He also holds a photo in his hand. Lin Ang used the forbidden spell to release 2 soul bodies to see what was in his hand. When he saw who the person in the photo in his hand was, Lin Ang couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. The person in that picture is him. Spider-Man looked down at the photo in his hand and whispered this. Looking at the information, this person is very strong. I don't know if it's true. I hope you qualify to be my companion. His voice was not loud, but it was still heard by Lin Ang. Lin Ang pointed his fingertips, the forbidden spell teleportation was activated, and he was behind Batman in the blink of an eye. I heard you're looking for me. After Lin Ang's voice came out, Batman was immediately startled. He was like a muscle reaction. Jerking back half a step, he turned around and launched an attack on Lin Ang. That speed is extremely fast. If it rests on ordinary people, I am afraid that he has already knocked him to the ground. And Lin Ang just raised his hand a little. The forbidden curse immortal shield appeared in front of Lin Ang, completely blocking Batman's attack. Batman did not pause at all. and after a succession of moves, all of them hit the immortal shield. Lin Ang looked at Batman a little speechless. Then asked, "Is this your hospitality?" Quote. After Batman saw Lin Ang's appearance clearly, he immediately stopped the attack in his hand. He looked at Lin Ang with a bit of vigilance and doubt. Lin Ang was extremely close to him. Logically speaking, before Lin Ang approached him, he should have discovered Lin Ang's traces. But why? Lin Ang had already touched behind him, and he didn't feel anything at all. It always felt like something wasn't quite right. How did you appear behind me? Why didn't my bat armor detect your arrival? Batman frowned and looked at Lin Ang with a bit of concern. Lin Ang looked at Batman, and then his heart moved, and he appeared in another place. Batman watched Lin Ang suddenly disappear from his eyes, and the whole person was shocked. He quickly looked around, looking for Lin Ang's figure. After a long moment, he jerked his head back. He found that Lin Ang had been standing behind him. And he didn't even notice it at all. How the hell did you do it? Batman's inner doubts became even heavier. The look in his eyes when he looked at Lin Ang was full of incredulity. Mage, there will always be some unknown means, Lin Ang said lightly. And Batman's heart was shocked. Lin Ang had some skills, he knew. Otherwise, the people in the Alliance would not have let him invite Lin Ang to join. It's just such a contact today. He found that Lin Ang's strength seemed to exceed their expectations of him. Batman is extremely satisfied with Lin Ang's strength. Mage Lin Ang, Justice League, look forward to your joining. Lin Ang looked at Batman, who was inviting himself not far in front of him, and frowned slightly. He does have some knowledge of the original work. But for this point in time, how many people there are in the Justice League, and how far things have developed, he is still a little confused. Lin Ang said thoughtfully, "You called me here just to invite me to join the League of the Righteous." Batman immediately nodded. "That's right, the Justice League needs you." Quote. Lin Ang's eyes narrowed slightly, and then looked at him and said, "Then I don't know how many people are in the Alliance, and what are they going to face?" Now he desperately needs Batman to spoil some news, so that he can use these messages to decide what the situation is now, and determine where the plot has come. And when Lin Ang asked this, Batman's expression was obviously a little stiff. "We have to protect Blue Star, and we have to face an extremely powerful enemy. You can face death at any time. As for the number of people..." Thinking of this question, Batman felt a headache. After Superman dies, he wants to reform the Alliance, and wants to recruit powerful people to join the Alliance, fight against powerful enemies, protect humans and protect the Blue Star. But things weren't as easy as he thought. He searched for a long time and found a man who could control the sea, Arthur. He invited Arthur and promised him many benefits. But Arthur remained unmoved by his proposal and refused his request very directly. Even if he told him his purpose and the necessity of the Justice League's existence, Arthur never changed his mind. But fortunately, he also found the Flash. The Flash knew that he was to inherit Superman's last wish and protect the safety of Blue Star, so he readily agreed. Batman glanced at Lin Ang, and then sighed deeply. "I don't want to lie to you. Now the Justice League, except for me, there is only the Flash. Of course, if you join, we will have 3 of us." Lin Ang nodded after listening to his words, probably knowing when it was. Little Blue Star is afraid that he will suffer again. Batman looked at Lin Ang silent, and he couldn't help it. "I saw something about you on Instagram. I've pretty much done what happened in London, and you're working hard to keep Blue Star safe, and so am I. Our starting point and purpose are the same, so I hope you can join the Justice League." Batman thought of the videos and photos he had seen on Instagram before. He looked at Lin Ang's gaze and couldn't help but bring a little hope. Although he didn't know what the weirdos and huge monsters that appeared on the streets of London were. But the danger of that thing is definitely not low. Moreover, what he could determine was that the huge black head was an unknown invading force. Lin Ang was able to stand up against that force and protect Blue Star. Being able to repel the invasion of the outside world is enough to prove his strength, and he is willing to keep Blue Star safe. Listening to Batman's words, Lin Ang did not answer. Instead, I kept recalling this plot in my mind. This plot seems to be the cry after Superman's death, awakening the plot of the mother box saved by the Amazons. At this time, the Justice League has just started, and danger is still coming. Seeing that Lin Ang had not spoken, Batman was a little apprehensive. He was afraid that Lin would refuse his invitation, like Arthur. For Lin Ang's strength, he has some understanding, very powerful and very wonderful. If he joins, the strength of the Justice League will definitely get a qualitative leap. It's just that he is a little unsure whether he will join in the end. After all, on those videos and photos, he could see that Lin Ang was not alone. There seems to be a force, or organization, behind him. It's just that what that force is, he has not yet explored it. Lin Ang, I know that my invitation may be a little sudden or even inexplicable to you. But now Blue Star is facing a huge crisis, and under the threat of crisis, I really hope that you can step up and face it with us. You can also put forward any requirements and conditions, as long as I can do it, I will definitely not shirk. Lin Ang only looked at Batman, who was already a little anxious. He was facing Batman's somewhat apprehensive eyes. I promised, Lin Ang replied in a low voice. When Batman heard his response, he was first stunned for a moment, and then suddenly woke up. He asked with a bit of surprise. Promised. You really said yes. This is wonderful. Quote. Looking at his excited appearance, Lin Ang looked at him and then said. Superman's cry before death activated the mother box. Now, Steppenwolf is afraid that he has already obtained the mother box kept by the Amazons. I don't know if Atlantis' mother box is safe now. Hearing Lin Ang's questions, Batman's face immediately sank. Something about the mother box. Wonder Woman had already spoken to him before, but he hadn't found a good way to solve this problem. Batman sighed lightly, and then said, I think this matter needs to be considered in the long run. Quote. Why don't I introduce the Flash and Wonder Woman to you first, and then we'll discuss how this should work. Lin Ang shook his head. According to the original plot, there is no way to prevent Steppenwolf from getting Atlantis' mother box. Let's get to know them next time. I think I should go to Atlantis as soon as possible, where the mother box, there can be no loss. As soon as Lin Ang's words fell, Batman frowned. It's not that he doesn't want to help Atlantis guard the mother box. He really didn't know where to start. Lin Ang, Atlantis is at the bottom of the sea, and the location is also unknown. How do you get there? Batman asked with some doubt. Lin Ang stretched out his hand to use the forbidden spell water control. I saw his fingertips drawing several arcs in front of him. Under London Bridge, a huge water dragon rises into the sky, hovering behind him like his guard. Mage, there are always some means that others can't understand. Lin Ang instantly moved above the water dragon and looked at Batman. Batman looked at Lin Ang dumbfounded. At this time, he was extremely convinced that his invitation to Lin Ang to join the Justice League was definitely the most correct decision. In the end, the two decided to split up in two ways. Lin Ang goes to Atlantis to find and guard the mother box. And Batman, go and gather his companions the Flash and Wonder Woman. Ah, what is that? Quote, oh my god. It won't be another invasion. How are we so unlucky? Quote. Is there someone on that water hose? What kind of person is that? Quote. On London Bridge, many people are pointing to the water dragon and talking about it. The people of London are already a little scared. It has only been the invasion of Dormammu, and now there is a paranormal phenomenon. All this made them a little uneasy. Lin Ang stood on the water dragon, ignoring the people who pointed at him because of the water dragon. I'll go first. After speaking, he used the forbidden spell teleportation. In an instant, Lin Ang and the water dragon disappeared. Watching Lin Ang disappear out of thin air in front of him again, Batman couldn't help but sigh secretly. This Lin Ang's strength is really elusive. Then he scratched his head and muttered in a low voice. Mage, the ability to disappear in an instant is really enviable. When Lin Ang reappeared, it's already above the surface of the sea. The originally choppy sea, the moment he appeared, suddenly calmed like the surface of a lake. And he was standing on the surface of the water. Lin Ang looked around at the surroundings. This should already be the deep sea. Slowly squat down and place your hands above the water. Use magic forbidden spells to listen. Listening to all things is a kind of auxiliary magic, although it has no offensive power, but can obtain some unknown information. Like now, after listening to all things, he will gain the ability to communicate with sea creatures. After about 3 or 5 minutes, Lin Ang finally stood up. His face was a little solemn. He has gotten the news he wants from the sea creature heir. It's just that these messages are not too good. Atlantis was about 100 nautical miles from where he was now, which was not a difficult task for him who had teleportation. But the more troublesome thing is that the big war seems to have begun. Hopefully it's still time. Lin Ang used teleportation with a somewhat solemn face and arrived at Atlantis at the fastest speed. In the deep sea, in front of the palace of Atlantis. Mela is assembling the warriors of Atlantis. Those soldiers were all waiting in strict formation, and their faces were a bit of death-like tragedy. Swish! A blue light pierced through the sea and smashed not far in front of Mela and the Atlantean warriors. Popping channel. They're coming. Mela looked at the blue pillar of light, and her face became solemn. Soon, Steppenwolf led such a demon army and descended on Atlantis through the pop channel. The two armies clashed, and a big war was about to break out. Steppenwolf raised his hand and waved it forward. The demon-like army behind him rushed towards the warriors of Atlantis. Seeing this, Mela immediately took action to meet Steppenwolf. Only, she is not a match for Steppenwolf at all. Even if it was at the bottom of the sea, even if she used the power to control the water. She barely used the power of water control to control the original water molecules in the body of the Steppenwolf. But she still couldn't kill Steppenwolf. A trace of fierceness and ruthlessness flashed under the eyes of the Steppenwolf, and he controlled Mela with his backhand. Capture Mela alive. Mela was captured by him and watched in despair as the demonic army slaughtered the Atlantean warriors. A tear of despair ran down her cheek. At this moment, Mela suddenly noticed something different in the sea. She looked in that direction. Only a young man was seen, appearing in the center of the battlefield out of thin air. I saw the young man. With a wave of his right hand, a lasso like a whip appeared. He flung the noose towards Steppenwolf. As the noose approached, Steppenwolf sensed danger. Without even thinking about it, he immediately threw out Mela. He used Mela to block the lasso, and then he quickly took a few steps back, widening the distance between himself and Lin Ang. Then he stared at the young man with some vigilance. This young man, looking at about 15 or 16 years old, was white, handsome, tall, and had an extremely confident smile on his face. He didn't seem to be dangerous, but Steppenwolf instinctively felt that this teenager in front of him was not easy to mess with. The rope thrown by Lin Ang did not wrap around Steppenwolf, but circled the waist of the thrown-up Mela. Pulled Mela to his side. Lin Ang frowned and looked at Mela, who was shocked beside him, and secretly said in his heart that it was a pity. If the Steppenwolf had reacted a little sluggish just now, it would not be Mela, but Steppenwolf. The lasso of mantra cannot be broken free. As long as it is hit, then this battle can basically be regarded as over. The retreating Steppenwolf looked at Lin Ang with a wary face. Who are you? Why is it here? Quote. And Mela was pulled to the side by Lin Ang, and she was also shocked. She looked at the lasso of truth on her body, then looked at Lin Ang, and then subconsciously asked. Are you Amazon? But soon, after she finished speaking, she reacted that something was wrong. There are only women in Amazon. And Lin Ang is a man, he can't be an Amazon. No, who the hell are you? Why are you here? Quote. Mela asked. And at this time, Mela suddenly saw a demon trying to sneak up on him from behind Lin Ang. Mela couldn't care about asking anything else, and quickly shouted, be careful. Quote. She wanted to manipulate the water molecules in that demon-like body and help Lin Ang, but because of the lasso of mantra on her body, she couldn't move at all. Mela's nervous heart pounded. That kind of demon was fast, and it was behind Lin Ang in the blink of an eye. Seeing that he was about to succeed in a sneak attack, a circle of black mist emanated from Lin Ang's body. At the moment of touching which black fog, that kind of demon let out a miserable cry, and then was surrounded by that circle of black fog. But in an instant, that kind of demon turned into nothing. Such a change made Steppenwolf and Mela all widen their eyes. Steppenwolf asked with a bit of shock and incredulity. What kind of power are you? There was a bit of fear and eagerness in his voice. Lin Ang loosened the lasso of mantra tied to Mela's body and slowly said, the power of magic. Quote. Magic. Mela was shocked, and then suddenly realized, you are a human magician. Quote. Lin Ang nodded slightly. Mela couldn't help but relax. The Steppenwolf on the opposite side was furious after hearing this. A human being dares to spoil me. You look for death. Quote. Steppenwolf was furious, and his eyes even glowed fiercely red. In anger, he attacked Lin Ang regardless. And before he could get closer, a huge magic shield smashed towards him. Steppenwolf's attacks all hit the magic shield, and they failed to bring Lin Ang the slightest damage. After the immortal shield blocked the attack of the Steppenwolf, Lin Ang's eyes narrowed slightly, and then he used the forbidden spell Infinite Doppelganger. In the blink of an eye, countless Lin Ang appeared inside Atlantis. Looking at the countless Lin Ang's figures in front of him, Steppenwolf fell into a daze. He couldn't tell for a while, that was Lin Ang's essence, and that was his doppelganger. And just when he was at a loss, tens of thousands of Lin Ang threw out the lasso of mantra. Looking at the overwhelming lasso of truth around him, Steppenwolf panicked. Just when the lasso of truth approached him, he felt the horror of the lasso of mantra. He had a hunch that as long as he was thrown out of those noose sets by Lin Ang, then it would definitely be finished. Otherwise, he wouldn't have thrown Mela out to block the lasso. He wanted to escape, but there were Lin Ang's doppelgangers everywhere. And I don't know if it's an illusion, he always feels that those doppelgangers, each of them is real. The lasso of mantra thrown out by those doppelgangers is also true. It seems that every lasso is powerful. Steppenwolf was nervous. He couldn't even take care of the mother box and the demons he brought. Directly opened the pop channel. Passed through the pop channel and disappeared directly. Lin Ang looked at his fleeing figure and couldn't help but sigh secretly. This Steppenwolf escapes quite quickly. Mela standing beside Lin Ang. A shocked look looked at the direction Steppenwolf left. Steppenwolf ran away. He actually ran away. Mela still can't believe it until now. Originally, she was ready to die with Steppenwolf. Unexpectedly, Steppenwolf actually ran away. The crisis of Atlantis turned out to be so contacted. Did all this happen too quickly? It was so fast that it made her feel a little unreal. And Lin Ang looked at the demons around him. Although Steppenwolf has fled, but those demons are still there. The warriors of Atlantis are still fighting to the death with those demons, and the battle situation is very anxious. In the water, it is the home of the Atlantean warriors. They have a natural advantage, and if they continue, the warriors of Atlantis will eventually be able to win. But there are too many demons, and if you continue to fight like this, I am afraid that the warriors of Atlantis will also suffer heavy losses. Lin Ang's eyes narrowed and he used the forbidden spell Water Control. Suddenly, the originally formless and faceless water, the gentle and submissive water, suddenly turned into one hard and unbreakable cage after another. Trapped all those demons. The demon-like army fiercely attacked the cage, in the cage. But those cages are broken and repaired. In the depths of the sea, the last thing that is lacking is water. Unless the whole sea dries up, those cages will never disappear. The army of demons is all firmly trapped in the cage. Watching the demons struggle through square transparent water cages, the warriors of Atlantis opened their mouths. They looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. This human being, he actually used only one move to subdue all the demons. Am I dreaming? Quote. Awesome. This is also too powerful. Is he really just human? Quote. Doesn't it mean that human beings are very weak and very bad? Why is this person so powerful and willing to help us? Quote. The surrounding Atlantean warriors looked at Lin Ang's eyes full of awe and admiration. They never imagined that one day, humans would come to the bottom of the sea to help them. I never thought that human beings would have such a powerful existence. Mela stood beside Lin Ang, tilted her head, and looked at him blankly. She always knew that Steppenwolf would come. I also know that Atlantis will eventually have a disaster. But she never imagined that this catastrophe could be passed so smoothly. Even the one who solved this catastrophe was a human being. Such a young and handsome human being. Mela couldn't help but think of the scene where Lin Ang had saved her just now. Think of his power. The tips of Mela's ears couldn't help but redden slightly. Although she knew that the other party was saving her by tying herself up and pulling her into her arms. But she still blushed unarguingly. Mela took 2 deep breaths and shook off the mess in her head. Shen Shen asked, Powerful human magician, who are you and why are you willing to help us? Quote. Lin Ang looked at it, and after making sure that the demons were locked up, he retracted his gaze. Lin Ang, an ordinary human magician. Someone formed a Justice League to stop Steppenwolf, and I just became a part of that organization. Justice League. Mela thought for a moment. The specific strength of this alliance was not clear to him, but she had seen Lin Ang's strength with her own eyes. Relying on the original power of Atlantis, there is no way to stop the invasion of Steppenwolf. To stop Steppenwolf, you must find outside help. And Lin Ang and the Justice League are good for an aid. She couldn't help but set her eyes on Lin Ang's body again. Mela asked with some hesitation. Sorcerer Lin Ang, I have a request, I don't know if you can agree to it. Lin Ang looked at her. What request? Quote, Mela said a little embarrassed. With the power of Atlantis alone, it is no longer possible to stop Steppenwolf. I want to ask to join the Justice League, I don't know if I can. Quote. At the same time as Mela asked this, the surrounding Atlantean warriors fell silent. They all looked at Lin Ang seriously, with indescribable expectations and longing in their eyes. The strength that Lin Ang showed just now left an indelible impression on their hearts. If they can become comrades in arms and alliances with such people, then for them, it is the hope of survival. Lin Ang hesitated. I need to ask Batman about this. After all, he is the founder of the alliance. Mela's eyes lowered a little, and a faint disappointment flashed under her eyes. Looking at her disappointed look, Lin Ang chuckled. Don't be so upset, I think he should be happy to have such a beautiful, powerful, like-minded lady willing to join the Justice League. Mela smiled bitterly. I hope so. Quote, I wonder what Sorcerer Lin Ang is going to do next. Go find Batman. Mela looked at the warriors of Atlantis and then at Leon. She hopes to leave with Lin Ang, but she is afraid that Steppenwolf will return. Steppenwolf's power is simply not something that ordinary warriors in Atlantis can deal with. It seemed to see her tangles. Lin Ang said with a smile. Go ahead, take the mother box, and I'll take you to Batman. Mela suddenly realized. That's right, the purpose of the Steppenwolf is the mother box. As long as the mother box is not here, then the Steppenwolf will naturally not regard this as the main battlefield. Mela did not hesitate to take out the mother box guarded by Atlantis. The warriors of Atlantis can't guard the mother box, but the Justice League can. Taking the mother box away can lead the danger away, prevent the destruction of Atlantis and the war, and also protect the safety of the mother box. It's a good thing to kill two birds with one stone. Mela looked at the warriors of Atlantis, who were a little dazed in front of her, and sighed softly. Warriors of Atlante, you are brave. Over the years, you have given a lot to protect the mother box. From today onwards, you don't need to make senseless sacrifices, you don't need to continue to guard here. Mela said loudly. Lin Ang stood aside and watched Mela make follow-up arrangements. Watch as she dismisses the warriors who guarded the mother box before Atlantis. It wasn't until she arranged everything that Lin Ang stepped forward. All ready. Mela nodded heavily, and she handed the mother box in her hand to Lin Ang. Sorcerer Lin Ang, I think that it is safest to have something in your hands, and I hope you can accept it. Lin Ang looked at the mother box, did not hesitate, and put it away. The back of this mother box is of great use, and it is indeed more reassuring to keep it in your own hands. Since everything has been arranged, then let's go. Lin Ang reached out and grabbed Mela's waist, pulled her into his arms, and then used the forbidden spell teleportation. In the blink of an eye, disappeared in place. And not long after they left. Arthur was belated. He looked at the place where the mother box was originally stored, and couldn't help but widen his eyes. The mother box is gone. The place where the mother box was originally placed was empty. And not only that, but none of the guards here are gone. Arthur couldn't help but have a bad thought in his heart. The mother box should not have been won by Steppenwolf. If that's the case, it's really troublesome. Arthur looked around, his brows furrowed tightly. He took a deep breath and secretly said in his heart, no, I can't just sneak into Atlantis to find out. Quote. On the other side, Lin Ang used the forbidden spell teleportation and took Mela to Gotham City. Looking at the changes in the surrounding environment, Mela couldn't help but sigh in envy in her heart. Instantaneous, silently moving and appearing. This fact is too powerful. Mela couldn't help but look up at Lin Ang, and then asked, Mr. Magician, are all magicians so powerful? You're too powerful. Quote. Lin Ang thought for a while, and then said, I'm a little bit stronger than the other magicians. Quote. Mela looked at him with some suspicion. I couldn't help but mumble in a low voice. I'm afraid it's not a little stronger, it's a little bit stronger. At this time, a huge bat-shaped sign appeared in the night sky of Gotham City. Seeing that mark, Lin Ang chuckled, and then said to Mela, okay, the province is looking for it. Quote. Mela looked at the bat-shaped mark and thought of what Lin Ang had said before. The organizer of the Justice League, the man seems to be called Batman. It seems that the mark in the air is the mark of Batman. Let's go find him. Lin Ang pulled up Mela again and instantly moved to the roof of the police station. Sheriff Gordon, who was waiting for Batman on the roof, suddenly became alert when he saw the two people who suddenly appeared in front of him. Sheriff Gordon held a gun in one hand and aimed at the two men. What are you? Why did you suddenly appear here? Lin Ang looked at Sheriff Gordon, rummaged through the information that belonged to this person in his mind, and said after making sure that this person was also looking for Batman. Sheriff Gordon, take it easy, don't be nervous, we're our own people. We are friends with Batman, and we came here to find him. Lin Ang spread out his hands, indicating that he had no malice. Sheriff Gordon, on the other hand, frowned solemnly and looked at the two. His suspicions about Lin Ang and Mela have not yet been dispelled. The way Lin Ang and Mela appeared just now was too weird. It's like it appeared out of thin air. If it weren't for the fact that he had watched the two appear in front of his eyes. He even had to wonder if he was blinded. These two people were here in the first place, but he didn't see it. Looking at the two people in front of him, Sheriff Gordon had an extremely strong sense of crisis, which weighed on his heart. Just now they just suddenly appeared in front of him. If they suddenly appeared beside him and attacked him, would he be able to flash past? Sheriff Gordon couldn't help but think secretly in his heart. How do you prove that you're Batman's friend? I haven't heard Bruce say that he has two friends like you. And at this moment, someone shouted loudly. Gordon, stop, they are their own people. Quote. Batman suddenly appeared, reached out and held Sheriff Gordon's wrist, pressing the gun in his hand. Don't be nervous, this is my new companion. Sheriff Gordon saw Batman and finally put down the gun in his hand after determining that Lin and Mela were his own. Sorry, I was a little unreasonable just now. Sheriff Gordon apologizes to Lin and Mela. Both Lin Ang and Mela shook their heads, indicating that it was okay. Soon, Wonder Woman and the Flash also landed on the roof of the police station. Batman patted Sheriff Gordon on the shoulder, and then introduced the two sides. This is a new friend who has joined us, Lin Ang. The invasion of London not long ago was solved by him. Gordon looked at Lin Ang with a little surprise. Lin Ang is very young, and he thought that Lin Ang only had the ability to surpass ordinary people, so he was invited by Batman to join the Justice League. Unexpectedly, he turned out to be the one who solved the invasion before. For a while, his eyes looking at Lin Ang were different. Wonder Woman and the Flash also looked at Lin Ang with a surprised look. They also knew about the previous invasion in London. It's just that by the time they found out, it was already a little late. By the time they arrived, the matter had been settled, leaving only the last work left. And quite a few people are doing that work. Unexpectedly, it was Lin Ang who solved this matter that time. Later, Batman introduced Lin to the Flash and Wonder Woman. These two are the Flash Barry Allen and Wonder Woman Diana Prince. Lin Ang looked at them and nodded. He then introduced Mela to them and explained the situation of Atlantis. When everyone knew that he had stopped Steppenwolf, protected the Mother Box, and even brought the Mother Box back, everyone was extremely happy. Batman clapped his hands in praise. Well done. This is arguably the best news in recent times. Then he looked at Mela. Mela wants to join the Justice League, and now in the face of the invasion of Steppenwolf, the more companions, the better. He held out his hand towards Magia. Welcome beautiful Miss Mela to the Justice League. Mela shook his hand with a bit of surprise. Having seen Lin Ang's strength, Mela originally didn't have much hope of joining the Justice League. After all, compared to Lin Ang, her strength was too weak. Unexpectedly, Batman personally invited her to join. And at this time, a half-human, half-mechanical guy fell from the sky. This guy grabbed Batman, and then said something in a hurry and with panic. Looking at this guy in front of him, Lin Ang instantly thought of what the situation was now. This guy should be the Steel Skeleton. Now it is estimated that Dr. Stone has been arrested, and the Steel Bone has joined the bridge of the Justice League. And soon, Batman also reflected this. Friends, this is Steel Bone, just now he joined our Justice League, and now there is something that needs to be solved by us as soon as possible. According to Steel Bone, Steppenwolf has captured the hostages, and we need to rescue the hostages as soon as possible. The Flash frowned and asked, where are the hostages held? How many hostages are there? How do we rescue? Quote. Wonder Woman's expression also became serious. Steel Bones has been given the exact location of the hostages. In the middle of a sewer. After speaking, Batman looked at Mela. Mela, I'm afraid I need your help this time. Mela is from Atlantis, where there is water, and she can play a lot more than anyone else. This, Mela subconsciously looked at Lin Ang. Lin Ang's strength is much stronger than her. By her, are you sure she's more reliable than Lin Ang? It's important to save people, or I'll come. He stretched out his hand a little, and a rope composed of cosmic energy connected everyone together. Then, his mind moved. By the time everyone reappeared, they were already in a sewer pipe. Watch the surroundings change. Batman, Wonder Woman, Steelbone, and the Flash were all stunned. Batman said with a bit of amazement. I thought your power was very peculiar before, and it came and went without a trace. Now it seems that your ability is more powerful than I thought. The Flash opened his mouth even wider and looked around incredulously. God, I thought I was fast enough, you're going to be faster than me. How the hell did you do it? Lin Ang waved his hand calmly. You are pure speed, and I am magic, peer-to-peer teleportation, the two cannot be compared. And at this moment, the Steel Bone sensed that a demon-like was approaching in the distance. 300 meters away, at the bend of the sewers, there is a demon-like approach. A small electronic light screen appeared around the Steel Bone's eyes, with some small dots moving. It was a map of the sewers he imported. Lin Ang nodded, and then used the forbidden spell to disperse a large number of spiritual bodies. Let's keep up. Several people followed Steel Bone and Lin Ang towards that side. As they got closer, they saw the demons carrying some humans into a dead end of a sewer pipe. There are several huge cells there. Father. Steel saw his father in that cell. I couldn't help but make a noise. The sound made by the Steel Bone immediately attracted the attention of the demon. Steel Bone's father spotted him and immediately became nervous. Go, hurry up. Steppenwolf is here, there are many demons, you are not opponents. Quote. Just as Dr. Stone was shouting at them, the demons had already raised the alarm and attacked the crowd. After seeing his whereabouts exposed, Batman immediately entered a combat state and began to command the battle. Lin Ang, we are responsible for dragging these demons, you send those hostages away first. The rest of the team was also ready for battle, and then urged this Lin Ang to leave with the hostages. Lin Ang brought the means by which they suddenly appeared here. Let them all realize the importance of Lin Ang in this hostage rescue. With Lin Ang here, these hostages will not be their concern. He was able to take all these hostages out of here safely at once. Moreover, with Lin Ang here, if they want to evacuate, they can also quickly evacuate, which is their biggest reliance. Listening to Batman's shout, Lin Ang looked at those demons, and then at the hostages in those cells, and fell silent. Although there were huge numbers of those demons, they were nothing to him. It can be solved casually. But Batman, since they want to play, then let them play. After all, a companion in a team, he also has to give other people room to grow. It is also good to let them take these magic brushes first. Seeing that Batman and others have already fought with demons, and there is no tendency to lose, Lin Ang didn't care about those guys anymore. He walked to the cell and broke the door open, beckoned to those locked up in their cells and signaled for them all to come out. Then, he raised his hand and drew a circle in front of him, opening the portal of teleportation. The moment the portal was opened, the hostages who were caught by Steppenwolf were dumbfounded. I had no idea what this was in front of me. Okay, go in order. Once inside, it's safe. Saying that, he was the first to enter the teleportation door. Watching Lin Ang smoothly pass through the portal of teleportation, the others also followed him through the portal one by one. On the other side of the police station roof, Sheriff Gordon looked at the sudden appearance of the fire ring portal and was so shocked that his eyes were about to fall out. Through the magic door formed by the ring of fire, he was able to see the situation on the opposite side. It was a dark underground tunnel. Batman and the others seemed to be fighting. And a hostage, through the door of the ring of fire, came to the roof of the police station. Looking at the people who came out, Gordon's eyes became even more wonderful. Just now, Lin Ang, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Steel Bones and Mela suddenly disappeared, which already startled him. Unexpectedly, this is only a blink of an eye. Lin Ang opened a door on the roof of the police station. And through this door, so many people were brought back. Lin Ang walked to Sheriff Gordon's side, explained the matter to him simply, and then said, "Sheriff Gordon, these are hostages kidnapped by Steppenwolf. Now that there is a scuffle over there in the underground tunnel, these people will be left to you." Sheriff Gordon nodded stunned. He was a little dazed, and until now, he didn't understand what was going on. It wasn't until Lin Ang had arranged the hostages that Sheriff Gordon suddenly came to his senses. He grabbed Lin Ang's wrist with great excitement. Now he was able to make sure. In the Justice League, this mage named Lin Ang is the really powerful guy. His strength and abilities seem to be even more amazing than Batman. Although he respects and admires Batman, he has to admit that the mage in front of him is the most awesome. If he can get along with this mage of the Justice League, then the situation in Gotham City may be better. He said excitedly, "Master Lin Ang, I wonder if you can leave your contact information. It's the same as this one left by Batman." Lin Ang looked at him, and then at the liaison left by Batman on the roof of the police station. This communicator allows Sheriff Gordon to send a signal to Batman when needed, informing him to come. Lin Ang chuckled. That kind of communicator was too inefficient. He pulled out a spare amulet. "On this talisman, there is a trace of my spiritual power, and I can feel it when you need it." And just before he handed it to Gordon, he suddenly thought that unlike Batman and other Karma Taj mages, Sheriff Gordon is just an ordinary normal person. He has no magical self-defense, nor does he have the strength of a supernatural person. So, Lin Ang withdrew his hand and punched several physical-level protective magic prohibitions on the amulet. "Well, you put away this amulet. If necessary, it may be able to save your life." Sergeant Gordon was overjoyed, and he quickly put away the amulet. "On behalf of the entire people of Gotham City, I thank you." His words are not finished. Lin Ang had disappeared from the roof of the police station. Watch him disappear quickly again. Sheriff Gordon and the hostages who remained in place were in a dream. Chapter 31. On the other side, in the middle of the sewers, Batman is pressed to the ground by a demon-like, and the two sides are entangled, and the way they fight is somewhat inelegant. He gasped for air, already exhausted. Not far from them, Wonder Woman was also suppressed by Steppenwolf. If no one helps her, it is only a matter of time before she loses. And Steel Bone, Flash and Mela are more relaxed, and a large number of demons are cleared by them. It's just that this is only temporary. Once the battle time is extended, the number of demons is enough to drag them to death here. There are too many of these demons. The Flash also gasped a little. Steel Bone looked at his energy value. In this way, his battle will not last long. If Lin Ang doesn't come back, I'm afraid we'll be left here. The Flash couldn't help but sigh softly. Now the most relaxed is Mela. She stood in the underground water channel and used the power of controlling water molecules to control the water molecules in the surrounding demon-like bodies to kill those demons. Mela looked around and couldn't help but think to herself, maybe Lin Ang shouldn't have been let leave with the hostages just now. When he was in Atlantis before, Lin Ang alone overturned Steppenwolf and thousands of demons. If he were here, maybe the situation would not be so dangerous now. Lin Ang once again used the forbidden spell teleportation to appear in the sewers. It was Batman's hot time with Steppenwolf and demon-like. Seeing Lin Ang's sudden appearance, the Steppenwolf looked stunned for a moment, and a sense of fear spread from the bottom of his heart. Seeing him, Batman and Wonder Woman and others were in high spirits. Lin Ang glanced at the battle situation, and then sealed his hands and used the forbidden spell Infinite Doppelganger. Suddenly, thousands of Lin Ang's figures appeared in the sewers. His doppelganger made the already not wide sewer even more crowded. Batman looked at the surrounding Lin Ang's doppelganger with a shocked expression. He clearly sensed that these doppelgangers were real, very powerful and aggressive, not hallucinations or illusions. The Flash gasped and couldn't help but exclaim, "Shish, isn't this too perverted?" Quote. He approaches Batman and fights off the demons who are fighting him for Batman. "Isn't this brother's ability teleportation? How can there be such a skill?" Quote. Batman shook his head. In fact, he didn't know much about Lin Ang's skills. However, through the last encounter, he could see that in addition to the teleportation and doppelganger he was now displaying, he also had the ability to summon shields. "I think his strength is estimated to have not been fully displayed," Batman whispered. Mela next to her nodded heavily. "The strength of Lin Ang's magician is the strongest I have ever seen. Before, in Atlantis, he had single-handedly scare off Steppenwolf and subdued thousands of demons in one move." The Flash couldn't help but exclaim, "OMG. One person subdues thousands of demons and scares off Steppenwolf." Quote. "Are you sure you're not joking?" Mela's expression was unusually serious. "Really?" Just when the Flash was about to question something, Batman gasped. "I think Mela should be real." Batman tells the Flash to stop chatting and pay attention to the battlefield. Lin Ang's doppelganger killed those demons at an extremely fast speed. Wherever his figure went, no demon was spared. Besides, there are also dozens of doppelgangers that surround Steppenwolf and Wonder Woman. The doppelgangers threw out the lasso of mantra in unison and headed towards the Steppenwolf. Looking at the lasso of truth thrown out by Lin Ang, Wonder Woman's eyes couldn't help but widen. This is the lasso of mantra. How could there be so many?" Quote. Unlike Wonder Woman's shock, a trace of heart palpitations flashed in Steppenwolf's heart. Looking at the densely packed lasso of mantra thrown towards him, Steppenwolf was suddenly furious. "Again, you abominable magician. You're bad for me again." He was angry and wanted to bite Lin Ang to death. But his reason told him he couldn't do it. He is not Lin Ang's opponent, and he can't fight hard with Lin Ang. Steppenwolf took a deep breath, suppressed his anger, and then opened the pop channel without hesitation and teleported away. He didn't even have time to leave a cruel word. Watch the Steppenwolf leave in embarrassment. Batman, Wonder Woman, Steelbone, and the Flash couldn't help but fall into silence. It took a long time before they came to their senses. This is also too, the Flash was a little speechless. They had just fought with the devils. There is even a tendency to be beaten on the ground. But this Lin Ang actually brushed all the people on the opposite side alone. Isn't this strong and a little perverted? Batman, on the other hand, is a posture that has just met Lin Ang. He knew before that Lin Ang's strength was very strong. But he really didn't expect that he would be so strong. He has a feeling, and it is estimated that the 5 people of him, the Flash, Wonder Woman, Steelbone and Mela combined may not be able to beat him. Beside, Wonder Woman rises from the stone. She looked at Lin Ang with a bit of shock, and then asked, "Lin Ang, where did the lasso of truth in your hand come from? And how can you have so much?" Quote. As the owner of the mantra lasso, Wonder Woman couldn't understand it at all. Where the hell did Lin Ang get so many mantra lassos? Moreover, the most important thing is that she can feel that Lin Ang's mantra lasso, the power seems to be above her. This made her want to break her head and didn't understand why. Lin Ang took all the doppelgangers back before answering lightly. "It's the power of magic." Wonder Woman couldn't help but frown, and she looked at Lin Ang with some surprise. It's not that she hasn't heard of such people as magicians. According to legend, in distant Kathmandu, there seem to be quite a few magicians. Those people are very mysterious, and they can obtain unknown powers through cultivation. However, the use of magic can condense the lasso of mantra. She had never heard of such a thing. She was a little hesitant and puzzled by this Lin Ang, and she didn't speak. On the other side, Flash and the others saw that the demons were eliminated, and the Steppenwolf also fled, and quickly came over one by one. The Flash asked with a look of admiration and shock, "Why did you run away as soon as you appeared as Steppenwolf? What the hell did you do to him before? It can make him afraid of being like this." Quote. Before Lin Ang came, their battle situation was very anxious. But as soon as Lin Ang appeared, the battle situation was instantly reversed. Especially that Steppenwolf. He had just seen it with his own eyes. After the Steppenwolf saw Lin Ang, his face changed greatly. A look of sadness and helplessness, and even some grievances. Steppenwolf's performance like that, if there is no story between Steppenwolf and Lin Ang, he does not believe it. Mela, who rushed over after the flash, couldn't help but look at Lin Ang with a bit of admiration and adoration. Didn't I say that before? Lin Ang, magician, with his own strength, subdued the demons with one move, and scared off the Steppenwolf. Batman and the others took a deep breath, although they know that this may be true. But that's a bit strange to think about. Just by dealing with a few demons, they already had to turn their hands around. And Lin Ang actually easily solved the demon, and even solved the Steppenwolf. This kind of thing, even the previous Superman, I am afraid that it cannot be done. See Batman, The Flash, Wonder Woman, and Steelbone dazed. Mela understands deeply. If she hadn't experienced those things herself, she would not believe that there were such powerful people in this world. Subsequently, Mela told the original story of her previous incident in Atlantis, and even did not keep the matter of her own being hammered. After hearing this, the Flash couldn't help but open his mouth wide. Before, he thought that Mela was exaggerating and deifying Lin Ang's strength. But now it seems that this is probably true. Then, the Flash patted his head and said with a bit of excitement. Does it mean that in this way, Steppenwolf will not threaten us? Quote. The others couldn't help but look at Lin Ang. Lin Ang frowned and shook his head. It's not that simple. Steppenwolf has a blast channel. The speed of running is too fast, it is not easy to catch him, and behind him, there are more powerful existences. Lin Ang looked at the location where the Steppenwolf had just disappeared. Secretly said in his heart, these 2 times let Steppenwolf go, and I don't know when he will contact the master behind him. Darkseid has been hiding behind the scenes and cannot find his exact location, even if he has the ability to kill him. Batman frowned and asked, who is the existence behind Steppenwolf? Quote. How strong is he? Lin Ang glanced at Batman lightly, and then said, Darkseid. Quote. Darkseid possesses omega rays that can radically erase a person's existence and revive it. Moreover, even if you put aside the omega rays, Darkseid's own strength can crush all Kryptonians. After listening to Lin Ang's introduction, Batman's face changed drastically, and his heart was horrified. Superman came from Krypton. His strength is obvious to all. But now this Darkseid's strength is stronger than that of the Kryptonians. If that's the case, isn't that too scary? If Darkseid really came, what would they resist? Now even Superman is dead. Steel Bones also gasped. No, you must not let Darkseid descend to Blue Star, otherwise it will be trouble. Others were also nervous and apprehensive. Don't panic, we still have Lin Ang, magician. Mela looked at Lin Ang with a hopeful expression. I think the strength of Lin Ang's magician may be stronger than Superman, we are not without chance. In an instant, everyone's eyes fell on Lin Ang's body. It seemed that thinking of Lin Ang's previous battle situation, they couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Yes, fortunately, we also found Master Lin Ang. Because Lin Ang broke the news about Darkseid, Batman and others feel that things after that may be more complicated than they think. So they decided to go back to Batman's base first, discuss countermeasures, and then plan for the long term. After Lin Ang asked the location of the base, directly used the forbidden spell teleportation and returned to Batman's base with everyone. After arriving at the Batcave, Lin Ang carefully looked at the entire base. This Batcave is very large, it is a natural cave, and the decoration inside is mainly red and blue, full of science and technology. It's full of weapons and high-tech equipment collected by Batman, and it looks a bit of a sense of premium. Seeing Lin Ang directly leading them into the Batcave, Batman couldn't help but be secretly frightened. Lin Ang's ability to go wherever he wants, anytime, anywhere, is simply terrifying. No one knows where he will go in the next moment. If he wanted to kill someone quietly, it would be too easy. Batman took a deep breath, suppressed the thought in his mind, and looked at the others. We need to discuss things in the future. The rest of the Justice League couldn't help but nod seriously. Steppenwolf alone has already made them burnt out. If Darkseid, who is behind Steppenwolf, also appears, then their situation will become more difficult. But fortunately, they now have Lin Ang, and they have a certain head start when facing Steppenwolf. It's just that I don't know how Lin Ang's strength will compare with Darkseid. Steelbone looked at the others in the alliance, frowned, and said with a bit of hesitation. The Mother Box has the power to resurrect life. It's like me, I was resurrected by my father in a mother's box, and although it was not perfect, it did extend my life. I think we can use it to resurrect other people as well. After he finished speaking, Batman instantly understood what he meant. The others in his mouth are likely to refer to Superman. Steelbone wants to resurrect Superman with the Mother Box. Batman thought of the possibility of resurrecting Superman, nodded heavily, and then said, "That's right, I also think that I can use the Mother Box to resurrect Superman." Whether or not Darkseid said by Ringan Magician will appear, we all need to plan ahead, and we need more and stronger forces to guard Blue Star. Superman's strength is obvious to all, and if there is a Superman to help in the big war, the success will be improved a lot. Batman then looked at the others, especially Lynch. Although the Justice League was led by him, the strongest here is Lin Ang. The one who has the most power to speak is naturally him. After Lin Ang met his gaze, he nodded slightly. For the strength of Superman, he has only seen it in writing, and he also wants to see what it looks like. The current strength of Batman and the Flash is honestly disappointing to him. I just don't know if Superman's strength will bring him a little surprise. Seeing Lin Ang nodding, Batman immediately excitedly led everyone to the Kryptonian spaceship. Prepare to resurrect Superman on the ship. Everyone in the Justice League stood a few steps away from the Mother Box, waiting for the Flash to use his power to charge the Mother Box. With the Flash's energy infusion, the entire spaceship was covered with blue-white lightning. Those lightning, the sound of la la la, are endless, and everyone only feels goosebumps when they hear it. Lin Ang stood aside, carefully observing the Flash's energy trajectory and how the energy operated. Congratulations, watching the Flash's energy trajectory, you have comprehended it, created the forbidden spell Super Thinking. Congratulations, observe the way the Flash's energy works, you have comprehended it, and created a forbidden spell level God Speed Force. And at this time, the entire Kryptonian spacecraft began to shake. A creaking sound continued to sound in the spaceship, as if the spaceship would shatter at any moment. Superman is resurrected, the Flash exclaimed. At the moment when his voice fell, Superman soared into the sky. As he lifted off, a huge energy shock swept through everyone present. Everyone hurriedly used their strength to resist the powerful impact. The Flash's original action of injecting energy into the Mother Box was interrupted by the huge impact, and he had to find cover to avoid the energy impact. Wonder Woman protected her body with the power of the bracelet. Batman was hit by a huge energy and repelled several meters. Steel Bones and Mela were no better, and they were both caught off guard by the huge energy impact. The levitation cloak automatically wrapped Lin Ang the moment Superman's energy impact appeared, completely blocking out those energy impacts. The huge energy impact turned the entire Kryptonian spacecraft into a mess. When all the dust in the spaceship disappears and all energy returns to calm. There is no longer a Superman in the spaceship. Not good. Superman is gone, the Flash exclaimed. Batman quickly looked at the sky above the spaceship. Superman just used energy to shock, broke the top of the spaceship, and has already left from there. Quick, get out and see, quote, Batman said with a bit of anxiety. The people of the Justice League also left the Kryptonian spacecraft along the big hole. When they got outside, they realized that Superman wasn't too far away. He just stood next to the monument and looked at his monument stunned. Superman seemed to have lost his former radiance, standing there blankly, not knowing what he was thinking. Superman, what's wrong with this? Looking at Superman's appearance, Wonder Woman frowned. She always felt that Superman seemed to be different from before. While thinking, she prepared to step forward to check on Superman. Next to her, Lin Ang looked at Superman standing next to the monument and grabbed her. Be careful, Superman, this should be amnesia. Amnesia. Everyone couldn't help but frown and look at Superman with a bit of worry. Superman is super strong. If he really loses his memory and forgets them, it will not be a good thing for them. And at this moment, I don't know if it was because his conversation was too loud, Superman suddenly looked in the direction of several of them. Superman turned his head and began scanning the crowd. When he found that the power of the mother box exuded in the steel bone, he suddenly showed full hostility, roared, and rushed towards the steel bone. And the steel bone also seems to be influenced by the mother box. He attacks Superman completely uncontrollably. Just instantly. The scene suddenly became chaotic. Watching Superman and Steel Bone suddenly fight, Batman and others couldn't help but be stunned. None of them expected this to happen. It is clear that he is his own person, but he fought here. It's not good. Steel Bone and Superman are out of control. Batman immediately tensed up. Both Steel Bone and Superman are not ordinary people. Let them fight here, then the result must not be what they want to see. At this moment, the Steel Bone, with the help of the thruster, had arrived in front of Superman at a very fast speed, and his finger laser was aimed accurately at Superman's chest. And just when his finger laser was about to touch Superman's chest, Superman sideways dodged the attack of the Steel Bone. He took several steps back, and then his eyes fired laser attacks at the Steel Bone. What's going on? How could they fight? The Flash asked while dodging the energy aftermath of Superman's fight with Steelbone. It should be because of the power of the mother box. Batman looked solemnly at the Superman and the Steel Bone Road who were fighting together. Superman is from Krypton, and the Steel Bone was resurrected by the mother box, and his body is stained with the breath of the mother box. They are affected by the instinct of the mother box and Krypton, and in their consciousness, the other party is an unending enemy. Watching the two fight more and more fiercely, there is even a tendency to die endlessly. Wonder Woman couldn't help but say, "Can't go on like this." Quote. She quickly took out the lasso of truth and threw it towards Superman, wanting to pull Superman and the Steel Bone apart through the lasso of truth. But the disparity between her strength and Superman is too great. Not only did she fail to stop Superman, she was even pulled back by Superman. Seeing this, the Flash and Batman next to him were taken aback. The two hurriedly grabbed Wonder Woman. It's just that the power of Superman alone completely surpasses the strength of the three of them. Instead of holding Wonder Woman, they were pulled together to Superman's side. Superman grabbed Wonder Woman's neck. His strength was amazing, and he grabbed Wonder Woman's neck with one hand, almost breaking Wonder Woman's neck. Wonder Woman's face turned red because she couldn't breathe. The Flash and Batman were both taken aback. In order to save Wonder Woman, the two can't help but join forces to attack Superman. For a while, the whole situation was completely out of order. Mela frowned and walked to Lin Ang's side. She looked at the battlefield over there and asked with a bit of hesitation. What are we going to do now? Can't just fight like this, isn't this infighting? Lin Ang half squinted at the few people fighting over there. Watching Superman 1-4, and still firmly gaining the upper hand, Lin Ang was somewhat satisfied with his strength. Although his strength may not be as good as Darkseid behind Steppenwolf, it can also be regarded as a big help. Whether Superman wants to break up now, or really has amnesia, beat him up first. Lin Ang said, disobedient. Then beat it up first. If he is still disobedient, then beat him until he obeys. There's nothing you can't solve with a punch. After hearing Lin Ang's words, Mela fell into silence. Is that what she wants to say? She mean, Superman is so powerful, do they also go up and do a favor? In this way, I am afraid that before Darkseid arrives, the Justice League will die because of infighting. In the midst of the battle, the Flash circled from the side to Superman's back at a very fast speed. He seems to be planning to sneak up on him behind Superman. Only, he just circled behind Superman. Before he could make a move, Superman jerked his head back and looked at the Flash. The Flash was immediately horrified by his eyes. Hiss, how the hell was it discovered? Quote. Superman seems to have sensed the Flash's intentions, and he casually squeezes it in his hand, and Wonder Woman, who is about to be pinched to death by him, is thrown aside. Then, at great speed, he attacked the Flash. Be careful. Seeing Superman's movements, Wonder Woman, who was thrown out, shouted loudly at the Flash. The Flash was startled and quickly dodged. It's just that his speed is fast, and Superman's speed is not slow at all. The Flash dodged in embarrassment. But Superman's speed was so fast that he couldn't completely dodge it. Although he was not hit on the point, he was still beaten out by Superman. The Flash, poofed. a mouthful of blood in the air, and then his body hit the base of the monument hard. The severe pain made him unable to get up for half a day. The Flash lay on the ground in embarrassment, panting heavily, and couldn't help but be secretly shocked in his heart. He really didn't think about it. In terms of thinking and speed, Superman can actually keep up with him, even faster than him. It's just incredible. At this moment, Superman attacked the Flash again. Looking at Superman, who was constantly approaching, the Flash's face turned a little white. "It's over, I'm really going to finish this time." The Flash couldn't help but smile bitterly. He is afraid that he can't get up now, and if Superman makes up for him, he will be completely wasted. And just when Superman's attack was about to fall on the Flash, Batman finally appeared. "Get out of the way." Batman kicks the Flash and kicks him out of the ring. Batman then attacks Superman's wrist, trying to lock his pulse gate and control his hand. But the idea is good, the reality is cruel. Batman just took a look at his face and was slapped out by Superman. Ahem. When he saw that Batman was about to fall heavily on the ground, a water shield stood in his way. Relying on the cushioning of the water shield, Batman did not receive too serious damage. Batman looked up in the direction of the water shield. Mela waved at him. "Are you okay?" Mela asked. Batman held his chest and nodded with a bit of a wry smile. If it weren't for Mela's timely hand just now, he would have been photographed underground now. "It's okay, I won't be able to die for a while." After speaking, Batman looked at Superman. "The most important thing now is to find a way to calm Superman." Before he could finish speaking, Superman's attack had already struck again. It may be that seeing that Batman has just been saved by Mela's water shield, Superman's attack this time is aimed at both Batman and Mela. He came towards Batman and Mela, extremely fast. With the strength of Batman and Mela, he couldn't dodge at all. Seeing that he was about to rush in front of the two, Lin Ang's figure suddenly appeared in front of Superman. Seeing Lin Ang's sudden appearance, Superman was taken aback. He hurriedly took 2 steps back and looked at Lin Ang with a bit of vigilance. It seemed to be looking at whether Lin Ang was threatening. And Lin Ang stood in place very calmly, looking at him with a faint smile, letting him look at him as if it was completely harmless. Seeing Superman stop, the people of the Justice League couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Fortunately, there is still Lin Ang, otherwise these people are afraid that the whole army will be destroyed. If that's the case, it's a joke. The organization that exists to protect Blue Star, before it can protect Blue Star, it falls apart due to infighting. If this is really the case, then they have to die of depression. Superman looked at Lin Ang and frowned, as if he felt that there was no need to fight him, and instead he set his gaze on Batman again. He turned and attacked Batman again. However, as soon as he made a move, a golden immortal shield with flame streamers appeared in front of him. Looking at the giant shield, Superman launched an attack on it. It's just that his attack smashed on that huge energy shield, and it didn't set off a ripple. Superman was startled, and he looked at the energy shield in front of him with a little surprise. After scanning, he was surprised to find that with his strength, there was no way to take this energy shield. Superman frowned, bypassed the immortal shield that stood in his way, and continued his attack towards Batman. Not sure why, he seems to hate Batman from the bottom of his heart, and he feels angry when he sees him. It's just that super talent just moved. Lin Ang appeared beside him, like a shadow, and stopped Superman again. Blocked again, Superman couldn't help but look at Lin Ang seriously. His eyes were full of shock and doubt. He didn't expect that Lin Ang would be able to keep up with his speed completely with his own strength. This was much more than he expected. Superman immediately focused all his attention on Lin Ang. He gathered all his strength and smashed a punch towards Lin Ang. And this time, seeing Superman's attack, Lin Ang actually waved his hand to remove the immortal shield. Looking at Lin Ang's actions, Batman, the Flash and others couldn't help but exclaim. "Lin Ang, magician, be careful. Master Lin Ang, Superman's power should not be underestimated." Quote. Lin Ang heard their words. However, he wants to see how much strength the so-called Superman can have. Seeing that Lin Ang actually removed that magical shield, Superman couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. If Lin Ang used that huge energy shield to resist his attack, then there was really nothing he could do about Lin Ang. The shield that was in the way was gone, and he should be happy. But I don't know why, he just felt that he seemed to be underestimated, and he was extremely dissatisfied in his heart. Superman roared and increased his strength. The fist smashed straight towards Lin Ang. Seeing the oncoming fist, Lin Ang secretly said, "Good to come." Ideographic period. Then he mobilized the power in his body, gathered in his fist, relied on his own strength, and hard received Superman's punch. At the same time that the fists of Lin Ang and Superman collided with each other, a huge shock wave and sonic boom spread, and the shock wave and detonation were like substance, forming a circle of energy fluctuations. The powerful aftermath of the energy blew everything around it away. Superman looked at Lin Ang and took him around effortlessly, with a shocked face. He knew better than anyone how much power he had. And this human in front of him, he actually relied on his physical strength to directly catch his fist. Or his fist with an all-out blow. How is this possible? On the side, the rest of the Justice League were all blown away by the huge energy impact made by the two of them. Everyone fell heavily to the ground, unable to lift their heads by the aftermath of the powerful force. Batman looked at Lin Ang with a shocked expression. Is this a magician? Quote, he actually caught Superman's punch with strength alone. Isn't that incredible? Wonder Woman next to her also looked incredulous. Lin Ang's magical ability, they have all seen it, is ridiculously strong. However, the power he is now displaying is not inferior to his magic. Does he still give anyone else a way to live? The steel skeleton was impacted by the huge energy and flew out for nearly 100 meters. When he got up from the ground, he only felt dizzy, as if the mechanical bones of his whole body were about to fall apart. The anger and uncontrolled state just now completely disappeared. He had just woken up and saw this scene. He whispered involuntarily, "Lin Ang, is he still a magician?" His voice was full of doubt and apprehension. Isn't the magician known for magic, and his body is very weak, completely crispy? Why can Lin Ang fight with Superman? The whole person of the steel bone was stunned. And Mela couldn't help but reach out and cover her mouth, making a gasping sound. Originally, she thought that she was the person who knew Lin Ang's strength best in the entire Justice League. But now that she looked at it, what she thought she understood was only a scaly claw. She didn't know anything about the true power of Lin Ang. Lin Ang. Superman looked at Lin Ang in front of him. He was very dissatisfied with Lin Ang's ability to directly resist his own power. He gathered more powerful forces again and attacked in the direction of Lin Ang. Lin Ang's eyes were half narrowed. The contact just that moment. Let Lin Ang have a preliminary estimate of the strength of superhumans. By strength and speed alone, Superman is no match for him. As for hand-to-hand combat, that's going to be tried to know. Looking at Superman's attack, Lin Ang stepped forward without the slightest fear. The subsequent scene made Batman and the others' eyes almost not fall out. Lin Ang is a magician, who does not use magic at all, and fights with Superman. Moreover, Superman is still the one who was pressed and beaten. This simply shattered their three views. The Flash asked with a trembling voice. "Cloth, Bruce, is that really Superman?" Quote, "How do I feel?" His strength mixed with water. Quote, Steel Bone also nodded heavily. Previously, he proposed to use the Mother Box to resurrect Superman because Superman was super strong. Is their main combat power against the invaders. But now look at it. They all seem to be wrong. Lin Ang estimated that it was the key to fighting the invaders. Batman took 2 deep breaths and looked at Superman and Lin Ang's battle situation, and also felt that things were a little wonderful. In his cognition, Superman is Blue Star's most powerful existence. But now the facts told him how ridiculous his idea was. Compared with Lin Ang, Superman's strength is completely inadequate. Don't forget, Lin Ang is a mage, and his greatest power is magic. He hasn't used magic yet, and he can't lift Superman's head. If he had used magic, then this battle would have ended a long time ago. Batman, the Flash, Wonder Woman, Steelbone, and Mela dragged their injured bodies together. They looked at the battle in front of them with a dull expression. "Hey, friend, shall we really not stop it? I think something will happen if they continue to fight like this." The Flash pointed at the two who were fighting. The battle between Lin Ang and Superman became more and more intense. Many things around were shining with the aftermath of their power, and they were crooked. At first glance, the surroundings look like a ruin. If they continue to fight like this, I am afraid that the surrounding buildings and even the ground will not be able to withstand it. Batman smiled wryly. The battle between these two is no longer something we can interfere in. Isn't the lesson just enough? A Superman has already crushed them to the point of immobility. Now there is still Lin Ang. These two people, no matter which one, are not something they can resist. Batman really can't understand how Lin Ang's strange ability came from. It's ridiculously strong, outrageously strong. Superman's strength is already strong enough, and Lin Ang's strength actually suppresses Superman in all aspects. Batman even had some doubts about whether he had taken luck and could invite such a god to join the Justice League. Wonder Woman looked at the battle between Superman and Lin Ang and couldn't help but say, Superman is losing. Lin Ang's strength is not inferior to Superman, but his fighting skills are much stronger than Superman. Wonder Woman even feels that Lin is now directing Superman. Every move and every style of his is ingenious. Obviously it doesn't take much strength, but it can make Superman suffer. Steel Bone looked at Lin Ang and couldn't help but marvel. This is also too strong. According to the information I inquired, magicians can improve their strength through cultivation. I really don't know how long Lin Ang has been cultivating to be able to be so powerful. The Flash looked at Superman and then at Lin. Look at Lin Ang's age, at most 17 or 8 years old. Even if he cultivates when his mother's fetus leaves, it will not be 20 years. I don't know if I can practice magic. The Flash now feels a little envious, jealous and hateful. Lin Ang's strength made them only look up to now. And Mella's eyes were shining at this time looking at Lin Ang. Her eyes were full of longing and admiration. Lin Ang's strength made her can't help but pay attention to him, and she couldn't help but feel surging. Mela looked at Lin Ang, her eyes were deep, and she whispered, what a monster. Quote. She now doesn't know how to describe him except for the word monster. The most powerful thing about a magician is the power of magic. He doesn't even need magic to defeat superheroes now. No wonder Steppenwolf ran away when he ran into him. If the Steppenwolf doesn't run, it is estimated that he will die in Lin Ang's hands. Lin Ang was wearing a levitation cloak and floating in the air, looking at Superman on the opposite side with a relaxed expression. And Superman was sweating profusely at this time and looked at Lin Ang with incredible eyes. There was even some self-doubt. He used all his tricks to use his strongest ability. But it couldn't shake Lin Ang in the slightest. From beginning to end, Lin Ang's expression was faint. It was as if his strength, in front of him, were all worth mentioning. This made Superman have to wonder if his strength had weakened. In fact, Lin Ang is still quite satisfied with the strength of Superman. Whether it is his strength, speed or the various abilities in his body, it is not to be underestimated in battle. But his combat experience seems to be somewhat inadequate. Only know how to use brute force, simply use the power in their own body to attack, do not know how to use skills. This also allowed him to exert 10% of his power, and only send out 6 or 7%. What he said to Wong when he first arrived at Karmatage that he had never wasted time was not an empty phrase. Before arriving at Karmatage, he learned almost everything he could touch, and he also innovated and strengthened those skills a lot. And these things include fighting skills, martial arts. His current fighting skills and martial arts skills are not to say the pinnacle, but also to the realm that ordinary people cannot match. However, he still prefers magic to hand-to-hand combat. After all, magic is cool, convenient and fast, and the battle is more elegant and easy. Some things that can be done purely by physical strength or technology, magic can also do it, and even better. So on weekdays, he doesn't fight very close to people. At this moment, a voice came from afar. Stop. Everyone looked in the direction where the voice came from. Lewis. Lin Ang looked at the person running towards this side and stopped the movement in his hand. Now that Superman can fight him like this, he already has an understanding of Superman's strength, and there is no need to continue fighting. Lin Ang withdrew his attack, and left the rest to Lewis to solve. After seeing Lewis, Superman's whole person seemed to freeze. Then, as if he saw something familiar, he came to Lewis as quickly as possible. Lewis stroked Superman's cheek and comforted him softly, persuading him not to attack again. Superman, on the other hand, picked up Lois, rushed directly into the sky, and left with her. What now? Several people looked in the direction Superman left, and looked at Batman a little blankly. And Batman also felt a headache. Previously, when he resurrected Superman, he did not expect that Superman would have amnesia. I think he'll recover his memory. Batman's tone was firm, and he seemed to be full of trust in Superman. He will definitely come back. Quote, let's go back to the spaceship first and put away the mother box. And when they get back to the spaceship, only to find that the mother box used between them to revive Superman and protected by Atlantis is missing. How so? Look at the empty spaceship. The faces of the Justice League changed in unison. DDDD. A rush of communication sirens sounded. The steel bone quickly connected the communication. I don't know what to say over there, and the face of the steel bone became very ugly. What happened? Batman asked. Steel bone said in a solemn tone. The mother box was snatched. Hearing him say this, everyone couldn't help but be surprised. How is it possible? Just now, it was fine, why was it suddenly snatched away? Steel bone sighed. The powerful energy impact after Superman's resurrection just now not only knocked us out, but also knocked out the mother box. The mother box was picked up by my father, and he put the mother box of Atlantis and the mother box of the Interstellar Laboratory together. Batman couldn't help but gasp. Wait, you mean that the mother box protected by the Interstellar Lab, as well as the mother box of Atlantis that was just used to revive Superman, have all been snatched by Steppenwolf? The rest of the Justice League also looked incredulous. Mother Box Trinity. Steppenwolf had already obtained the mother box guarded by the Amazons. Now in addition to the parent box of Interstellar Labs and the mother box of Atlantis. Doesn't that mean that Steppenwolf already has 3 mother boxes? Looking at the anxious appearance of several people in the Justice League, Lin Ang was very calm. Because he was not surprised that the mother box was robbed. Even the mother box of Atlantis fell into the hands of Dr. Stone, which he single-handedly facilitated. If it wasn't for point-to-point transmission, how could the mother box appear so accurately in front of Dr. Stone? If this time to stop the invasion, he didn't join in, since he did, what was the point of just torturing Steppenwolf? If you want to beat Darkseid, you will also beat Darkseid. However, although you want to beat Darkseid, you can't joke about Blue Star. The ultimate battlefield cannot be in Blue Star. As long as Darkseid descends to Blue Star, then they risk facing the anti-life equation, which is too dangerous. So when he got Atlantis Mother Box, he set a ban in the Mother Box. He is ready to descend on the apocalypse. Teleportation requires an accurate teleportation location, so he needs Steppenwolf to open the passage to the Apocalypse Star to get the exact location of the Apocalypse Star. What to do now? The Flash, Mela, and Wonder Woman all looked at Batman in unison. Batman frowned. Now the mother box has all missed, which is very passive for them. I was able to find out where the mother box was. The steel bone raised his head to look at his comrades in front of him. I was resurrected through the mother box. There is a connection between me and the mother box, and I can sense the location of the mother box. Batman looked at the steel bone and then at the others. No matter what, we can't let the apocalypse invade Blue Star. Now, we must stop Steppenwolf. Everyone else nodded heavily, indicating that they were ready to fight. A day later, all of the Justice League assemble in front of the spaceship. Fu looked at Batman, Wonder Woman, the Flash, Steelbone, Mela, and Lin Ang in front of him, and couldn't help but frown. He asked towards Batman, "Don't wait for Master Kent." Batman shook his head and said in a very firm tone, "He will definitely come." Looking at his confident appearance, Fu was a little dazed. "Why are you so sure that he will come?" Fu asked suspiciously. Batman laughed and said, "It's faith." Then, he took everyone to board the spaceship. On the spaceship, everyone in the Justice League was a little nervous, and the overall atmosphere was very depressing. For this battle, it is clear that they do not hold out much hope. Lin Ang looked at the sluggish morale, sighed softly, and then said to them with a bit of comfort, "Don't worry, nothing will happen. Before the battle comes, I will impose a magic ban on you, which will make you stronger." Hearing this, several people who were originally demoralized instantly raised their heads in surprise. They looked at Lin Ang with a bit of shock. Impose a magic ban and improve your strength. Can magic still be used like this? Batman asked with a bit of curiosity. Lin Ang nodded. Of course, as long as you learn enough magic and are strong enough, you can do whatever you want. Quote. In an instant, everyone in the Justice League looked at Lin Ang with a curious face. Lin Ang glanced at the people of the Justice League, and in his heart he calculated the magic ban imposed on everyone. The stronger these people are, the more trouble-free he can be. After thinking about all the forbidden spells that could be auxiliary, he got up and walked to the side of the steel bone. I saw that he raised his hand towards the steel bone, and suddenly a large amount of golden light filled the whole body of the steel bone. Just in an instant, the three magic prohibitions of eternal solidification, dimensional barriers, and forbidden demon fields hit the steel bone mechanical bone. Feeling the blessing of the magic, steel bone reached out and touched his body with a bit of dazedness. At that moment, he felt as if he had broken the connection between himself and the mother box for a moment. But soon, that connection returned to normal. He looked at Lin Ang with some doubt, not quite sure if it was because of magic just now. Other than that, he now has only one feeling, and that is to be powerful. His body seemed to have reached an unprecedented strength. Even if he was asked to fight Steppenwolf alone now, he had some confidence. I gave you 3 magic prohibitions: eternal solidification, dimensional barriers, and forbidden demon fields. You are different from others. Your body is half mechanical and half flesh, and eternal solidification allows your mechanical bones to be not afraid of any physical attack. Even if they are completely scrapped, they can be repaired in a short time by rearranging material molecules. As for the dimensional barrier, this layer of protection, although it is almost invisible, can withstand most of the damage, and ordinary attacks cannot hurt you at all. The Forbidden Demon Realm allows you to form a space that isolates magic within a certain range of your body. Listening to Lin Ang's introduction, everyone in the Justice League couldn't help but gasp. Lin Ang's blessing of the magic prohibition simply turned the steel bone into an invulnerable monster. The body of the steel bone was originally very hard, and now it is increased by magic like this. It is simply terrifying. The Flash reached out and touched the mechanical body of the steel bone. When his hand touched the mechanical bones, he could feel a repulsive force. It seems that the right layer of transparent things is resisting his touch. Steel bone nodded. I feel an unprecedented power. Quote. This power is blessed on me, as if I can be afraid of any danger. Batman frowned, and then asked with a bit of doubt. Master Lin Ang, I can understand everything else. Is that Forbidden Demon Realm unnecessary? Steppenwolf doesn't know magic at all. Blessing this magic prohibition is a complete waste. Lin Ang shook his head at him and then said, our ultimate enemy is Darkseid, and he has a lot of good men. Although Steppenwolf can't do magic, but Disid, Dr. Chaos, Glory Godfrey, Granny Kindness, Calabac, Conter, Mantis, Motera, Titan, among these people, many of them can do magic. Quote. With Lin Ang's introduction, Batman and the others' faces became solemn again. Before, they simply thought that they were facing Steppenwolf, or one more Darkseid. Unexpectedly, in addition to them, there are so many enemies they have to face. Several people couldn't help but worry. Will they really be able to emerge victorious, keep them out of Blue Star, and stop their invasion? But at this moment, they couldn't help but think of Lin Ang. Lin Ang had just added a magic increase to the steel bone, which greatly improved the strength of the steel bone. If their strength is improved, it seems that it is not impossible to win. Forget it. Anyway, they still have Lin Ang on their side, and they are not without chance. Subsequently, Lin Ang added a magic prohibition blessing to everyone one by one. In the end, he added several forbidden magics such as soul barriers, soul protection, and soul labyrinths to everyone. But any forbidden spell that could have an effect on the soul consciousness, he cast several spells on the people of the Justice League. In the end, it condensed a talisman for everyone to protect the soul and consciousness. Most of Darkseid's magicians have some magic that manipulates consciousness and soul. He had to guard against them a little. He didn't want to suffer from enemies. Of course, he also prepared for Superman, and there was more than one. Superman is controlled to reverse the plot. When the comic book movie looks at it, put it on his own body to play, then it is not necessary. As Lin Ang struck the forbidden spell magic ban on everyone in the Justice League, their expressions couldn't help but slug a little. An unprecedented force haunts them. The feeling of being in control of everything made them intoxicated. After being blessed by Lin Ang with a magic increase ban, the original decadent fighting spirit of the Justice League people has recovered a little. The listlessness just disappeared without a trace. Wonder Woman lowered her eyes and looked at her palm. She clenched her fists, full of fighting intent. An unprecedented powerful feeling occupied her entire heart. I feel that with the magic blessing of Mage Lin Ang, my strength has increased by more than 3 times. If it's against Steppenwolf, I'm sure to kill him alone, Wonder Woman said with full confidence. And the Flash next to her, laughing, very agreed. Ha ha ha, that's right. Feeling the change in himself, he was overjoyed. The Flash was blessed by Lin Ang with several magic prohibitions such as body enhancement, instant healing, and strength increase. With the blessings of these magic prohibitions, he is not a crispy parkour man anymore. These kinds of magic prohibitions gave him the capital and reliance to fight against the enemy in close combat without falling behind. Originally, I thought we might have no chance of winning against Upper Darkseid, but now it seems that who loses and who wins is really uncertain. Mela next to her also nodded. Now she has long been conquered by Lin Ang's strength, and she admires him from the bottom of her heart. Manipulating water molecules is her instinctive talent. In the past, she felt that this ability was already very strong and powerful. But now, after being increased by Lin Ang's magic prohibition, she now found that her original self was simply a frog sitting in a well watching the sky. After being blessed by Lin Ang's magic affinity, water control, and other elemental forbidden spell magic, her strength has simply changed dramatically. Previously, when Steppenwolf invaded Atlante, she couldn't control the water molecules to kill him. But now, she had a hunch. If she is against Steppenwolf, she can manipulate the water molecules in Steppenwolf's body to kill him. Batman moved his body and felt that his mental reaction, strength, speed, vision, and muscle content had increased more than 3 times. Today, he is no longer the ordinary person who relies purely on technology. He is now a true superhuman. He couldn't help but cast a grateful and admiring look towards Lin Ang. Lin Ang completely used the power of magic to open the door to a new world for him. Thinking of this, Batman coughed lightly a few times, attracting the attention of others, and then said, "Ahem, I think we need to make a plan first." After speaking, he looked at Mela. "Mela, when the time comes, you will need to clear the scene by controlling the water molecules. This may require you to attack multiple targets at the same time. Can you do it?" Mela thought for a moment, then nodded. "No problem. With Lord Lin Ang's magical blessing, I think I can control the water molecules in many people's bodies at the same time." Getting an accurate answer, Batman nodded in satisfaction. Then he set his eyes on the body of the steel bone. "Steel bone, there is a connection between you and the mother box. You are responsible for finding the mother box, and cutting the connection between the mother box." Steel bone didn't say anything, just nodded heavily. Wonder Woman. Batman hesitated slightly, then said, "You may need to deal with Steppenwolf head-on." Quote. "Just hold him back." Wonder Woman clenched her fists and replied, "No problem, I think I can even screw his head off now." Quote. For Wonder Woman's answer, Batman is very satisfied. Finally, he looked at the Flash. "Flash, you are responsible for rear support. No matter who has a problem, you must respond as soon as possible." Quote. No problem. After being blessed with magic, the Flash felt his confidence burst. After waiting for Batman's series of arrangements to be completed, several people looked at Batman with doubt, and then asked, "What about you and Mage Lin Ang?" Quote. Batman was silent for a moment, then said, "I'm in charge of commanding, and Lin Ang is responsible for dealing with unexpected situations." Listening to Batman's arrangement, everyone in the Justice League nodded. In the current situation, the Steppenwolf is no longer a threat to them, and there is no need to worry. But the other party has 3 mother boxes in hand, and Darkseid may open the pop channel at any time and invade Blue Star with an army. Such unexpected situations must be guarded against. And Lin Ang is the best choice to prevent this accident from happening. An uninhabited ghost town in the north. Because of nuclear radiation, there is no one here within a radius of several kilometers. Therefore, no one knows that there are Steppenwolves and a large number of devil-like entrenchments among the base camp of Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf is reporting to Darkseid about the mother box. When Darkseid learns, Steppenwolf has not just found the mother box. Through the mother box, he also found that the planet he was searching for, which had an anti-life equation, was now Blue Star. Darkseid was excited. He ordered Steppenwolf to open the dimensional channel as soon as possible. He wants to personally descend on Blue Star and find the anti-life equation himself. And right now, Batman's spaceship has arrived over the ghost town. The moment the spaceship stopped, the demons in the ghost city discovered the existence of everyone. The demons let out a roar and rushed towards the spaceship from all directions. After checking the situation below and seeing a large number of demons approaching, Batman looked at Mela. Mela, it's up to you next. Mela frowned and walked to the edge of the spaceship. She looked down at the demons that were besieging the ship, and then nodded. With a light footstep, she jumped to the top of the spaceship. According to the plan set by Batman before, she took the lead. I saw her raise her hand, and golden magic arrays appeared on her arm. With the appearance of those magic arrays, huge water molecules fluctuated and began to gather around her. Sensing those active water molecules, Mela couldn't help but be shocked. With the assistance of the magic band, the power of her move has increased by more than 10 times. Originally, she was worried about whether she could completely eliminate most of the demons. Now, she's not worried at all. Mela jerked her 5 fingers and gently turned her wrist. Before the demons that surrounded this side could get close, the water molecules in their bodies were mobilized by Mela and stripped away from their bodies. The water molecules that were stripped off all gathered around Mela and became part of her power. Before the people of the Justice League got off the spaceship, under the attack of Mira, the demons had already fallen in large swaths. They didn't even need to get off the spaceship, they could go straight to the vicinity. Batman looked at the following pieces of fallen demons, and couldn't help but sigh in a low voice. Being able to see things about Lin Ang on Instagram is the greatest luck of my life. Finding Lin Ang and inviting him to join the Justice League is the most correct thing I have done in my life. Steelbone was beside Batman and faintly heard his whisper. Lin Ang is very powerful, and with him, I think we will win. He chuckled, but what came to mind was the appearance of Mela killing all sides. Also blessed with a magic band, Mela's strength seems to have increased by more than 10 times, and she should be no exception. I don't know how much my current strength has been enhanced. I really want to go down and have a good fight. Hearing their conversation, Wonder Woman had a smile on her lips. Looking at Lin Ang, he said with a bit of seriousness, I like strong men. Quote, I prefer men who can make me strong. Beside her, the Flash trembled, and then said with a bit of complaint. I said, can you converge a little? I'm still a kid, although I also like it. And at this time, above the spacecraft, there was the voice of Mela. Diana, you don't want me to be non-existent. Mela and Diana's words drew laughter from the rest of the Justice League. The originally tense and apprehensive atmosphere has now disappeared with Mela destroying demons in a large area. Now, they want to go down and try their current strength. Lin Ang looked at several people and shook his head helplessly. Ever since he had cast magic on these people, it's not just Mela's eyes that look at him a little strangely. Even Wonder Woman's eyes became strange when she looked at him. They looked at him like they hated having to come up and eat him. It made him feel a little hairy in his heart. Mela, who has improved her strength, is like a killing machine. She stood at the top of the spaceship. As long as the spacecraft went, it would be a sea of corpses and blood. No demon-like could escape her slaughter. At this time, inside the Ghost City, deep in the base camp of Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf receives a warning message from the demon-like and learns that his base has been invaded. Moreover, the intruders are very powerful and are approaching the inside of the base at a very fast speed. Steppenwolf was furious. Now is the critical moment for the 3 master boxes to perform the Trinity. At this time, it must not be disturbed, otherwise the previous achievements will be lost. Steppenwolf looked angrily at the message in his hand. He said viciously, abominable, abominable, it must have been that human magician who made the ghost. Quote, if it weren't for him, no one on Blue Star would have been able to break into my base so easily. I want him to die. I must kill him. Quote, he had 2 contacts with Lin Ang. Although these two contacts did not face Lin Ang head-on. But he also learned about Lin Ang's strength. He even had a feeling that if he faced Lin Ang head-on, he estimated that he would not be able to last long. Steppenwolf looked at the mother box that was about to complete the trinity. Can't help but grit his teeth. The current situation no longer allows him to think too much. For Darkseid, for the apocalypse, this time, he must not back down. Steppenwolf took a deep breath, took one last look at the three mother boxes, and chose to take the initiative. He jumped over the ghost city. Not long after, he saw a spaceship rushing towards it at an extremely fast speed. See the spaceship rushing over. Steppenwolf's eyes were gloomy. He jumped up, grabbed a huge axe, and smashed it towards the ship. And just when the axe was about to land on the spaceship, standing directly above the spaceship, Mela's wrist was reversed, and the magic array on her arm was shining. The water molecules that originally surrounded her changed instantly, turned into an earthy yellow earth element. A huge earth dragon rose up and blocked the attack of the Steppenwolf. Then, the earth dragon rolled upwards, wrapped the Steppenwolf entirely, and then dragged him towards the ground. The Steppenwolf, who was dragged into the soil, looked shocked. Mela. It's not that he hasn't seen it before. It can even be said that Mela is his defeated subordinate. If Lin Ang hadn't arrived at Atlantis in time, then Mela would probably have been killed by him. But now, Mela can do this. Also, isn't Mela from Atlantis? Isn't her power to control water? When will she still be able to manipulate the soil? Steppenwolf was full of questions. He broke through the earth element that trapped him and broke out of the ground. He tilted his head, looked at the spacecraft in the air, and then asked in amazement. Why did you suddenly become stronger? Mela looked down at Steppenwolf and didn't answer his words. But the hatred and killing intent in his eyes were so obvious. And the other people on the spaceship, seeing that Mela actually directly beat the Steppenwolf, all showed a look of surprise on their faces. It seemed that the magic prohibition imposed on them by Lin Ang was not only strong. It's really strong. Hee. I don't think we need to make a move. Mela can single out Steppenwolf. The Flash stood by and said with a grin. And Batman shook his head again after nodding slightly. Don't mess around. We still have to act according to the plan, and don't forget what our main purpose is. Everyone in the Justice League nodded. Then Wonder Woman stepped out of the spaceship, looked at Steppenwolf condescendingly, and said, "Your opponent is me." Looking at Wonder Woman standing on the spaceship, Steppenwolf rolled his eyes and said in a tone full of disdain, You're too weak. What about the magician? There he is. Let him out." Quote. In the face of his taunt, Wonder Woman was not annoyed either. She was indeed weak before, so much so that the previous fight could not withstand the attack of Steppenwolf at all. But, after all, that was before. Now who wins and who loses, it is not yet known. Wonder Woman, armed with a sword and shield, jumped down from the spaceship and slashed at Steppenwolf's head. Look at Wonder Woman who is rushing towards him. Steppenwolf looked disdainful. With a wave of his hand, he wanted to knock Wonder Woman out. But he mispredicted. A huge force slashed towards his head. When Wonder Woman is about to approach him, he senses that something is wrong. He quickly raised his giant axe to resist. But it's still late. The huge impact force, without giving him the slightest time to think about it, directly smashed him deep into the ground. The Justice League people on the spaceship couldn't help but be shocked again. Awesome. Lin Ang is simply too powerful. He just applied a few magics. He can increase our strength so much. If he is against the Steppenwolf, wouldn't the Steppenwolf have the slightest chance of victory? The Steel Bone couldn't help but silently calculate Lin Ang's combat strength in his heart. But in the end, he almost calculated that the program collapsed, and he did not calculate Lin Ang's true strength. Batman looked at the current situation and couldn't help but get his blood boiling. When he came, he had already prepared for the worst. I didn't expect that this time it would be so smooth. With their current strength, it seems that it is not impossible to recapture the mother box. Wonder Woman has pinned down Steppenwolf, and Mela has eliminated most of the demons. Steel Bone, you hurry up to find the whereabouts of the mother box. Flash, you pay attention to the situation of Wonder Woman and Mela. If there is any accident, you can strike at any time. Batman looked at Steel and the Flash and made arrangements. Steel Bone and Flash quickly straightened their faces and began to work. And the Steppenwolf below climbed up from the ground with an angry face. He glared angrily at Wonder Woman and Mela above. Twice. He had just started fighting, and he had already been beaten to the ground twice by women. What's going on with these two women? He had fought them all before, and he knew their strength. Why? How could they suddenly become so strong? Impossible. How the hell did you guys do it? Quote. Steppenwolf glared angrily at the Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman, on the other hand, looked at him with a smile on her face and said, "Have you forgotten that we have Master Lin Ang here? That magician." Steppenwolf looked incredulous. He knew Lin Angqiang, but can magicians make others stronger? How is this possible? And what responded to his suspicions was Wonder Woman's fist. In the face of Wonder Woman's attack, Steppenwolf did not dare to be big in the top. He resisted with all his might. But it's still very embarrassing. He glanced up at the spaceship above. The ship has already penetrated deep inside the base, and if it is not blocked, it will soon fly into the interior of the Ghost City. If they find the Mother Box before the formation of the Mother Box Trinity, it will be troublesome. Steppenwolf suddenly became anxious. While fending off Wonder Woman's attack, he gave the order to summon the demons in the entire ghost town. Let the demons stop the spaceship at all costs. Oh, brothers are ready to fight. Quote. The Flash looked at the army of demons below. The demon-like army like a tide is rushing towards this side. They're going to have to speed up. Batman looked at the steel bone and then asked, Steel Bone, have you found the location of the Mother Box? Steel Bone slowly opened his eyes, and then nodded heavily. It has been found, the Mother Box has started to connect, and it will take me a certain amount of time to be able to terminate the Mother Box. Batman nodded, then looked at the situation below. Don't worry, we'll buy you time. Saying that, he turned on the spaceship automatic attack function. Let the ship cooperate with Mela above the ship to attack. Then he patted Flash on the shoulder and motioned for Flash to follow him. Under the firepower of the spaceship, as well as the attacks of Mela, the Flash and Batman, the demons below suffered heavy casualties. The steel bone quietly fell to the ground and sneaked into the interior of the Ghost City. Wrapped in a levitating cloak, Lin Ang appeared above the battlefield, looking down at the battle below. Gee, it seems like it's gone a little too far. He found that the magic ban he had hit on several people in the Justice League seemed to be a little too much. So much so that now the war situation seems to be somewhat one-sided. Steppenwolf was beaten like a dog, and there was no room to fight back. Forget it, it doesn't matter anyway. Lin Ang shook his head gently. The core of this battle is not whether or not Steppenwolf can be defeated. It is whether the Mother Box can be found, whether the steel bone can be smoothly connected to the Mother Box, and then the three Mother Boxes are separated. He set his gaze on the steel bones that kept sneaking into the depths of the Ghost City. The steel bone that he had imposed a magic ban almost ignored all physical attacks, and faced the enemy. Either it was a second kill, or it was accelerated forward and thrown off directly. However, in just a few minutes, he had already touched the depths of the Ghost City and found the Mother Box that was about to form a trinity. The steel bone is connected to the Mother Box and wants to separate it. But the moment he touched the Mother Box, Steppenwolf found that the Mother Box in the depths of the Ghost City was touched. Steppenwolf, who was originally pressed to the ground by Wonder Woman, suddenly burst out and glared at this Wonder Woman with an angry face. You thieves! Bad crawler! You are trying to sabotage Lord Darkseid's great plans. Quote. Saying that, he burst out with an unprecedented force and violently shook Wonder Woman away. Then he raised his head to the sky and let the army of demons drag Wonder Woman, Mela, Batman and the Flash in a suicidal manner. Then, he turned around and flew towards the inside of the Ghost City. Sensing that things had changed, Mela immediately jumped down from the spaceship. Blocked in front of the army of demons. I'll clear the scene, you guys hurry up and chase Steppenwolf. Batman and the others nodded repeatedly. Before Wonder Woman left, the wrist bracelets collided with each other, emitting a huge energy shock. Helping Mela clean up some of the demons, she then nodded towards Mela and quickly headed towards the inside of the Ghost City. Deep in the ghost town, in front of the Mother Box. The body of the steel bone is connecting and communicating with the Mother Box. Steppenwolf has arrived. He couldn't help but say, raised the giant axe, and slashed hard at the back of the steel bone. Batman, who followed Steppenwolf and chased him here, shouted loudly. "Be careful," he reminded the steel bone loudly. But the steel skeleton is already at the most important juncture at this time. He couldn't dodge at all, otherwise everything would be lost. Seeing that the giant axe was about to smash on the body of the steel bone, a figure appeared behind the steel bone. Seeing Lin Ang suddenly appear under his giant axe, Steppenwolf showed an excited look of ecstasy. Lin Ang's magical power is very strong, and he has seen it more than once. But his strength is also not weak. He believes that as long as his giant axe can fall, this weak magician will definitely be spattered with blood on the spot. A magician who is known for magic dares to appear in front of his giant axe, which is simply looking for death. Steppenwolf looked at Lin Ang with excitement and excitement. What he didn't see was that Batman, Wonder Woman, and the Flash who rushed over from a distance all couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. They didn't have the slightest worry about Lin Ang appearing under the giant axe of Steppenwolf, and even had some urge to watch a good show. Seeing Lin Ang appear, the steel bone, which was originally a little nervous, couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Steppenwolf didn't notice the reaction of the others. All his attention was on Lin Ang. Everything that had happened before was all depressed in his chest, so that his anger towards Lin Ang had reached its peak. Now Lin Ang is in front of him, and the giant axe in his hand will soon be able to fall on him. Steppenwolf's heart showed a bit of cheerfulness and excitement. He felt that the anger in his heart were about to be vented. He involuntarily increased the intensity of his attack a little. I secretly thought in my heart that this time I must split this hateful magician in half in front of me. But what he didn't expect was, this time, Lin Ang did not even summon the huge energy shield that he had seen before. Instead, he stretched out his hand affectionately and indifferently, and then held his axe blade with one hand. Steppenwolf looked at everything in front of him in disbelief. He even felt that everything in front of him might be an illusion. Lin Ang actually grabbed his axe blade easily, and he didn't even shake his body. How is this possible? No, it's absolutely impossible. Quote. Steppenwolf's giant axe had stopped, and Lin Ang pinched his axe blade with one hand. Steppenwolf tried to press down the axe several times, but couldn't do it at all. And he tried to take the axe back, but the axe was pinched to death, not moving. Steppenwolf looked shocked, and his mouth was muttering impossible. In his cognition, the strength of magicians is weak, the body is weak, and once they are approached, it is very easy to kill them. But Lin Ang was completely out of his mind. Lin Ang looked at the axe in his hand, and then with his other hand, he lightly tapped on the axe. Forbidden spell and material decomposition activation. The giant axe that was originally held by the Steppenwolf disappeared in an instant. Steppenwolf's pupils couldn't help but dilate. He looked at his empty hands with a shocked expression. How is this possible? Is this really something a magician can do? Quote. He whispered. Lin Ang smiled indifferently at him, and then said, nothing is impossible. Quote. You don't know anything about the power of magic. Steppenwolf took 2 steps back with a bit of panic, and he looked at Lin Ang standing behind the steel bone with some dismay. He knew that he was going to fail this time. With Lin Ang, a perverted magician, he and the army of demons would not last long. And as he thought, in less than a moment, Batman, Wonder Woman, Manga, and the Flash had already rushed over. The army of demons in the Ghost City has been completely wiped out. They surrounded Steppenwolf. The Flash looked at Steppenwolf and then at the army of demons being cleaned up in the distance. He couldn't help but sigh. This is definitely the most enjoyable battle I have ever experienced. Wonder Woman nodded as well. With the blessing of Lin Ang's magic prohibition, she felt that fighting with Steppenwolf was completely effortless. Dealing with those demons is like a second kill. And just when they lamented that the battle ended very easily, the steel bone suddenly sounded a reminder. Don't be too happy first. These 3 mother boxes are almost complete trinity. At that time, the channel will be opened. Quote. Hearing this, the Steppenwolf, who was originally still lost in soul, suddenly came to his senses. He looked at the Justice League crowd with a bit of excitement and pride. Ha ha ha, you guys won't be proud for long. Quote. Since I got these 3 mother boxes, I knew that you would definitely come back, so I accelerated the trinity of the mother box. You're 1 step late. The passage is about to open, and Lord Darkside is about to descend on the blue star. And you all have to die. Quote. After speaking, he stared at Lin Ang viciously, and then said, including you, abominable magician. Quote. Listening to Steppenwolf's clamor, Wonder Woman wrinkled her brows. She stepped forward directly and restrained Steppenwolf, asking him how to close the passage. But Steppenwolf was not afraid in the face of her questioning, and he said with a sinister smile. You want to know. Lord Darkside is about to descend on Blue Star. Steppenwolf shouted loudly. After shouting, he closed his eyes and ignored everyone, as if he was closing his eyes and waiting for death, and the angry crowd wanted to punch him twice. And the steel bone was sweating sharply at this time. He looked anxiously at the people of the Justice League. Leave the Steppenwolf alone, think of a way. This channel is about to open. Quote. Batman couldn't help but frown. Doesn't you have a way to close the passage either? Quote. Steel Bone shook his head firmly. If he had a way, he wouldn't be in a hurry here now. Don't worry. Seeing that they all fell into a panic, Lin Ang stepped forward. There may be some ways to close the channel, you might as well try to change the direction of the channel. Change the direction of the passage. Everyone looked dazed, not knowing what he meant. Lin Ang looked at the 3 mother boxes, and then smiled faintly. The passage is still open, but it is no longer the apocalypse invading Blue Star. Rather, we invaded the apocalypse. After listening to Lin Ang's words, everyone present was shocked. Can you still play like this? The Steel Bone suddenly realized, like a Daigo empowerment. He can't close the channel, but he can change the direction of the channel. Why didn't I think of this method before? Good, just do it. Quote. The Steel Bone closed his eyes and began to look for a way to change the direction of the channel. And Steppenwolf learned that Lin Ang was going to change the direction of the passage and no longer pretended to be dead. He widened his eyes sharply and roared angrily at Lin Ang. You can't do this. It's just that Steppenwolf's dissatisfaction was completely ignored by the people of the Justice League. All of them, all their attention, was on the body of the Steel Bone. They looked at the Steel Bone intently, waiting for the Steel Bone to change the direction of the passage. Looking at the Steel Bone operation, Lin Ang added, remember to set it to a one-way channel. Steel nodded heavily. He naturally understood this, otherwise it would be pointless to reverse the direction of this passage. With Lin Ang's prompt, the Steel Bone was no longer entangled in closing the channel, but began to find a way to change the transmission direction of the channel to the one-way channel from Blue Star to Apocalypse Star. Changing direction is much easier than closing the channel. After a while, he changed the direction of the channel. It became only possible to lead from the Blue Star to the Apocalypse Star. The moment the change is completed, the channel is immediately opened. On the opposite side of the passage is a huge platform. On the stage stood Darkseid, Decide, and Grandma Kind. And standing in the audience are the Nemesis team and the elite army under Darkseid. The people on the other side were waiting for the huge oppressive force. Even through the teleportation channel, everyone could feel a little. Look at the battle on the opposite side. Everyone in the Justice League couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Fortunately, they changed the direction of the passage. Otherwise, let these people teleport over here, God knows what will happen. Fortunately, Master Lin Ang reacted quickly, otherwise when these guys arrive at Blue Star, I'm afraid that a few of us won't be able to cope with it. The Flash wiped the sweat that was not present on his forehead. Batman frowned and looked at Darkseid's army opposite. I have to say that Darkseid's elite troops don't seem to be comparable to those demons. And the other side of the passage. Darkseid, Deicide, and Grandma Kindness couldn't help but frown when they saw the subdued figure of Steppenwolf. Darkseid took 2 steps towards the passage. He seemed to want to descend on the Blue Star through the passage. But when he walked to the side of the passage, he realized that something was wrong. The channel in front of you turned out to be a reverse one-line channel. This passage turned out to be the Blue Star to the Apocalypse Star, not the Evolypse Star to the Blue Star. Darkseid was furious, and behind him, Deicide and Grandma Kindness couldn't help but frown. This door is reversed. Just as they studied that pass, Wonder Woman suddenly raised the longsword in her hand and swung it downward. Steppenwolf's head was cut off alive by her sword. The head of the Steppenwolf, along the teleportation channel, teleported all the way from Blue Star to Apocalypse and to Darkseid's feet. Steppenwolf's head, with blood all the way and rolling dirt, crashed towards Darkseid's feet. Darkseid narrowed his eyes and raised his foot to step on the rolling head of Steppenwolf. With a fierce murderous aura, his gaze looked at the people of the Justice League at the other end of the passage. The Justice League crowd felt it. If it weren't for the fact that Steppenwolf wouldn't be able to cross the passage right now. I'm afraid that he will rush over and crush everyone's corpses into 10,000 pieces. The Flash looked at the army of Apocalypse on the other side of the passage, and then at the 6 people on their side. Then asked, "Now what do we do?" Batman looked at the side of the passage. He also had some difficulties. There are 2 paths before them today. Either pass through the passage and make a fuss about the apocalypse, or leave from here now. According to his meaning, it is better to go over there and make a big fuss. But then they are likely to face sacrifice and not be able to return to Blue Star. But just leaving like that, it doesn't seem like a good decision. Although they blocked this invasion, who knows if the other side will find a way to open a passage or change the direction of this passage. Batman has some difficulties. Lin Ang looked at them, and then pointed to the opposite side. I feel like now is an opportunity. Chance. Everyone in the Justice League looked at Lin Ang in unison. Lin Ang nodded. The Blue Star we are in is very fragile. Cosmolypse Star will not give up invading Blue Star. If the battlefield is placed in Blue Star, then it will definitely be a fatal blow to Blue Star. So, I hope that the ultimate battlefield is the apocalypse. What do you think? After Batman listened, he nodded heavily. How fragile Blue Star is and how small human life is, he knows very well. Otherwise, he would not have organized the Justice League. He looked at the others and asked, "What do you think? I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more."